Time to look at a new system and rip it a new one. Let's see.
All right, let's get in this shit here. Let's turn my music down first of all. Oh, and now the music's silence. I don't know what my audio levels are. Go to the next song, damn it. And time that. Okay, yeah, let's go to like a loud song here. Oh, that's too loud. Yeah, that should be around good. It's like, it's topping out around like negative 38 decibels. That should be okay. Should be good. All right. Just getting myself set up here, finishing my coffee, and we're gonna look at a new RPG. Let's see what it's all about. The SAGAS RPG. So first heard about this one on Dungeoneers Pack podcast, which I don't actually know if he's released yet. But we recorded it was like a bunch of us like creatives in the hobby. I want to say in the industry, but it feels weird saying that, even though I have like already released one book and I'm releasing more and shit. But I don't know, other creatives in the hobby. I mentioned that it's a rules light, like universal system, which for people that know me, they know that that's kind of my bag. Because I mean, my favorite systems right now, I mean, I love a lot of systems, but my favorite systems right now is the Fate system and the Cypher system. So, I mean, creative, fairly streamlined universal systems, kind of my bag. We'll see. I'm, even though I've gotten to have like friendly chats and stuff with the wonderful creator of this, okayest DM, aka like Dennis Fleming. I'm still going to be honest about it. Going to be brutal about it as much as I can be. Although I say that and then I end up being nice, but we'll see. Let's take a peek though. Let's see what we got. All right. Okay. Everything is set up. There we go. All right, Sagas, a game by Okayest RPG Publishing. So I'm assuming he actually has a either personal business or LLC or something set up, which, I'm just starting that process myself. Yes, rip the mistakes out. Let's go. Let's go, bud. All right, so initial disclaimers here. I am fully cognizant of the fact that this is just like an early beta. Like, this is not going to be his final layout. It's not like his final wording or editing or anything like that. I'm not expecting perfection here. So if I give any feedback for anyone watching this, it's not that I'm like, oh, this sucks. I realize this is still like relatively early in the development stages. Like, he's still adding things. Technically, he calls this a beta, but technically this would be an alpha, because he's still keying the basics and adding things to it and stuff like that. So I'm not expecting this to be anywhere near as like done. This is just, it's looking at this in like initial reaction, at least from what I understand. So I have not looked at this at all. This is just my like knee-jerk reactions as I go through it. And let's take a peek, shall we? Okay, so we start, for being like alpha, beta, whatever. He's got like a little nice cover going on already here. Standard like credits things. Looks like he's already had some people sort of like help consult in the designing of it. Although, like a lot of us, he's kind of being a one-man band for the rest of it. Like, I know with my books, like, I'm writer, editor, layout, artist. Although sometimes I can try to get help with the art if I can. So I understand what it's like to be that. Like my buddy Taryn, Indestructible Boy, I know so many creators that are like that. Basically, you have to do a lot of the stuff yourself to try and save the money. So that's pretty cool. Cheat sheet. So this looks like a quick reference for the rules. Now, this is a fairly rules light system from what I understand from the description. So the fact that this is this cheat sheet is relatively short is promising, I want to say. So let's go through this. Making a check. GM determines a difficulty from 1 to 8. Okay. Players determine what dice to roll and how many. Player rolls dice. Uses the lowest results. That's interesting. Uses the lowest results. If lower than the difficulty, it's a success. So it's a roll under system, which you don't see too often, but you do see sometimes. I've seen a lot of good roll under systems. If higher than the difficulty, it is a failure and the PC receives 1 effort point. So I feel like that's equivalent of like a karma system or something. Interesting. I like games that do that. Be like, yeah, you failed, but here's a cookie. So I like things that do that. Determining dice. Which dice? Check your character sheet for all your stuff. Use the highest die that must be used. If no dice must be used, use the lowest die that may be used. If nothing applies, use a D10. Attacks without weapons must use a D12 and no attributes apply. Okay, interesting. Hopefully in the final, whoever does this final layout does like in the cheat sheet, it'd be, you can organize this a little bit better. Maybe like a mini chart and then like have some examples after them and stuff. Once again, I realize this is like early stages. But yeah, that'd be really cool to have some like examples. Cause like I had to read that twice to pick it up because it's a little bit different than normal. Still hungry. Can I fail again? More cookies. So how many? Use 1 die unless you spend 3 effort for an extra die. Okay, so like basically failing 3 times, unless there's other ways to generate effort, failing 3 times will give you like an extra dice. So that's not too bad. It's not like you're getting like a dramatic thing every time. Cookie. Yeah, just rename them to cookies instead of effort. Have a cookie. Cookie mode. It's a mod. Another PC uses help. Out of combat, 1 effort. Out of combat, 1 effort. So, okay, so help is an out of combat thing only. And I think by this, it means you have to spend an effort. I'm sure the actual rules will let us know this is just like a quick reference area. So out of combat, I'm assuming it means you have to spend 1 effort. I don't think it means you get an effort. Or combo, which is in combat, 3 effort. Does that mean I have to spend 3 effort? And I'm not sure if help is like an action during combat. We'll have to find out. Once again, I'm guessing until I get the actual rules. This is the type of thing you read after you actually know the rules. So yeah, we'll find out. PC NPC attacks. Another PC NPC. So you could probably replace like PC NPC with just like an entity, and like I'm assuming in part of the book you're gonna have like a terms, and then you can just like say like entities represent any sort of PCs, NPCs, monsters, etc., active combatants, stuff like that. Probably would be easier to say than like multiple terms patched together, just in case. Love it when you talk nerdy to me, Ked. Hey, BHG. Oh, I should have. Wait, what are you doing right now? Do you want to like go through a new RPG together? Where are you? I know it'll like take a second. I like switch to headphones. If you want to download this this document, we could like do this together. If you want to hop in, because like I've barely started. It would have been faster if I just messaged you on Discord. Let me go put on a shirt. All right. Yeah, we're going to switch this up. We're going to switch this up. 1 second. We're going to dual DM this. we're going to get 2 people in on this. Let's get as many like voices in on this shit as possible. Build each other up, you know? Yeah. I'm going to put headphones on though, otherwise his voice is going to like echo through the mic and shit. Set it so that monitor is off. Turn that up. Yeah, let's we're gonna tag team this. We're gonna tag team it. My brother from another mother. And I don't say that just because he claims to be black. His joke, not mine. I'm not racist. I'm just waiting for him to get decent. And then I'll like add him. Start virtual camera. I can like add his. I can like add him in here. Might cover the chat a little bit, but I'll put his video up. Call you, yeah, buddy. Yo, oh, I gotta unmute you on the stream. There we go. Now they can hear you.
There we go, and I have to mute the stream. I'll hear you twice.
No, yeah, okay. Yeah, here, let me just quickly add like your video in here with me.
Oh yeah, you have like a guest window?
I can make one in like 2 seconds. Discord video.
I was just working on Mistwalkers and I saw you were streaming, so I had to pop in.
Yeah. Oh no, let's wait a minute. Let's put you on the side screen. There we go.
I think Laura's going to be very excited. I don't know if any of the players watch, so I don't know if I should get into spoiler details, but
I don't know.
Something fun planned.
I don't know. Oh, it's like an all or nothing thing, huh? Okay, all right. There we go. Yeah, I'm prepared. I'm a pro streamer. It's fine.
It's true. You are.
Well, let's put you like here. I make you smaller than me for my ego. There we go.
I can understand that.
New friend.
And
yeah.
Also, how are you gonna tell them I'm black when I've got the Arab look going today?
Arab look? What the fuck are you talking about?
I look like fucking DJ Khaled if he didn't shave.
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Okay, I can see that. All right. There, I got you on stream.
New friend. Okay, it's DM. Hello?
Yeah, that's the guy who wrote it. So we got the author, editor, game designer, layout designer, marketing, the one man band that's done the like 99% of this. I was on the podcast with him the other day, on Josh's Dungeoneers Packs podcast.
Oh yes.
And he was like, look at my cat. No, he was just like, hey, I've got a system coming out, and it's a rules light universal system. And I'm like, I like those. So, yeah, figured might as well check it out.
I like new systems. As soon as you said, you're on the stream, and because there's that delay. Like I had said, like let me go find a shirt, and like took like a good like minute before it got to you. So I'm sitting there dancing in my chair, waiting for you to get the message. Like yes, I'm in.
Let's see here. Let me make sure you've got the book so you can look at it instead of just on the stream. Can I just send it through here? Yes, it will. There we go. It's just taking a second because like I'm doing too many things on the internet at once. It's like I'm streaming and downloading things. I think Lily's actually on a video work conference Wendy's probably streaming something. It's a good thing we've got good internet. Like, fuck.
For real.
Man, and then like people are messaging me. What do you want, Stormbringer?
I'm so used to waiting hours for things to download. And when I initially downloaded Diablo 4, it took 10 minutes. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
I know, like the days of us having like slow interwebs. I'm glad those are gone. I remember.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah, he's back now. I just had to, because I was using Discord to send him the file, Dennis, I had to like make his picture go away. It had nothing to do with the fact that he repulses me. So.
Me too, lad. Me too.
So yeah, I barely got into this at all. Like, hadn't even gotten through like the first like 2 paragraphs of the cheat sheet. So it's like, you're right in the beginning.
I was watching you go through the cheat sheet. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. That's why I said I like it when you talk nerdy to me, because I do.
Yeah, and this way we got someone like, I got someone to riff off of to be like, hey, my smooth brain's not getting this. Are you getting this? And then we can, yeah.
Discord plus OBS shenanigans, yes.
Yeah. Oh, we still got to test out the video.ninja or whatever, see how useful it would be. By the way, for anyone wondering, this is not a cigar, it's cinnamon stick. I don't do tobacco products.
For those who care, this is not a rolled up cigarette. This is actually a marijuana cigarette.
Because we're Canadian, and it's fine.
It's fine.
I should have charged my vape.
First of all, did you do the art for this too, OKSDM? Because that
cover and interior art looks like it says it's done by Rook Zero. So, yeah, it's pretty badass. I like the fact like there's a wide variety of people in the art, and even like the person in the cheat sheet, like the robot with like the fists like up, ready to box. Like, it's pretty badass. So.
I would get beat up by Robo Mommy.
Step on me, punch me. Yeah, OKSDM, this is not going to be like a stream meant for children or something. So like, I don't know if you want to share this afterwards. We're going to make comments and stuff. We are at adult streams. We don't filter ourselves.
Really? I like to party.
Not on my channel. All right, you've got the book up, I'm assuming, since you were looking at it. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, let's start over here. Take 2. Cheat sheet. All right. My music's not too loud. No, my music's fine, I think. Okay, so we started with like making a check. So GM determines the difficulty from 1 to 8, which I mean.
Cypher is very similar with that. Yeah. It's recognizable.
I like the fact that there's like a bounded like range. It's not like the infinite ranges like you get in certain other systems. I'm not going to name names, where it's like it's from 1 to who knows, because then you start getting like weird math into builds where it starts to scale badly. So I like limited accuracy charts like this.
And kind of jumping around, because that's what, like, I love the design of the cheat sheet. Like, this as your first page before anything else. So even once you've gone through the game, it's like, oh, you can just open up the book and it's right there. Is absolutely just chef's kiss. This is the stuff that I like to see, because for me, like, especially like I've had players who have been new players where we've had to make cheat sheets for them because there's so much to remember, especially in, you know, some of the other systems. What I also like about this is the difficulty scale is gives a really easy explanation of what those difficulties mean. Like, I like that relatable, like 2 is BBEG. Perfect. That makes sense to me. That now I know that 2 is that, you know, if I really want to make something tough, like a 3 or a 2 is exactly where I want to go.
Oh, I haven't even looked at that yet. I haven't gotten that far. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a difficulty scale. I'm on the first point, man. But I do like that the cheat sheet is in the beginning of the book. A lot of RPGs put it in the back, and then you flip to the back. But then if you need to refer to the rules, you're kind of flipping the book again to go through the book. Whereas if it's in the beginning, you'd be like, all right, here's the cheat sheet, but I need like this specific rule. And you just kind of like turn the page to that, not flipping the book. I don't know. It doesn't really make a difference, but I kind of like it being in the beginning. So GM determines the difficulty from 1 to 8. We're already saying we like these, the bounded accuracy is not the right term. I think that's a different thing, but the limited range, I like that.
Clearly defined, I think is
now I would, as someone that does a lot of layouts and stuff, I would redo the cheat sheet a little bit just because, but I mean, this is just early beta test. This is just getting the words on the page. This is not his final layout. But there are clearer ways that you could probably present this rather than just the 2-column format. Plus a sheet, what's Adam Doc say? Plus a sheet is a good look at glossary of things you need to know or pay attention to. I like that at the front too. Yeah, because it's this way, there's a lot of times you don't need all of the rules, but you do want to remind yourself, especially if you have new players or you're new to the system, be like, how's this work again? Oh yeah, bud. So player determines which dice to roll and how many. Don't know what that means yet, but I'm sure the rules will tell us as we get through it. But this just reminds you that you get to roll dice. Okay. Player rolls dice using the lowest result. So as I was just saying before you joined, so this is a roll under system. You want to, so that caught me at first and the lowest result. Oh man. And then I realized lower than the difficulty is a success. So this is a roll under system. Which you don't see very often, but I mean, mathematically, it doesn't matter whether you're rolling over or under if there's a bounded range. So I'm good with it.
Tabletops. I can appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm sure you're going to get some D&D nerds that are like, I don't like this reverse math. What is this lowest thing? But honestly, it doesn't make a difference whether you're going up or down, especially when you have a limited range. I mean, I'm sure someone will mod eventually just to flip the chart or something as an optional rule. But there's probably a reason it's a roll under system. So yeah, no skinny for me. It's fine. All right. So here, determining dice. Which dice? Check your character sheet, and then a bunch of things like wounds, talents, powers, etc. Use the highest die that must be used. Okay, so I see why he's saying this now, because you don't want bigger dice because you want low rolls. So if no dice must be used, use the lowest die that may be used. If nothing applies, use a D10. Attacks with weapons must use a D12 and no attributes apply. So I haven't fully grasped what that means yet, but it looks like you're going to have a pool of available types of dice you can use, and you can kind of cherry pick. So I like that. I mean, I've used systems before, when you played Kids on Brooms, where there's different dice for the different stats and different rolls and stuff. So,
which I loved as a character mechanic.
Inspiration Follow says roll under is totally fine by itself in a dice pool system. The problem is if you're subtracting modifiers, then you get into reverse math. There's that reverse math. Yeah, I don't know how that works. It looks like by the looks of what I've seen of the few sentences I've gone through after this, it looks like it doesn't look like there's a lot of plus or minuses to things so far, so much as adding extra dice. So I think you're modifying the amount of dice you roll rather than the actual modification on the roll itself, which is easier math because you either get more or less little beans to throw around. Click like math rocks. You don't have to add or minus pluses, which for anyone that's played a lot of Pathfinder games can get tedious if you know, especially first edition Pathfinder. Whoo boy. Still can't believe I'm still in a first edition Pathfinder game. It's weird.
I can't believe that either. But as I
I'm
saw,
trying to get him to go to second edition. I'm like, because I might be getting some free books for the revised version of Pathfinder when it comes out from Paizo. I was just gonna give him my other books that I have for second edition Pathfinder. Be like, here, take these, learn it. Ideally 0 maths. Yeah, less maths. So you can spend 3 effort. So how many dice? Use 1 die unless you spend 3 effort to get an extra die. Another PC uses the, like, so there's like an out of combat help and an in combat help. I don't know if the 1 effort here means that I'm assuming it means you're spending effort to do a help in or out of combat, like 1 or 3 effort for each extra die. I'm hoping there's more means of effort generation than just when you roll badly. So we'll have to see how that works. And then I think this is as far as I got with the PC, NPC, basically like entity or creature. Attacks another entity, and stealth or cover apply. So if you're stealthed, so if you're hidden or you have cover, then you get extra dice. So yeah, this is all about adding dice to your dice pool. Who doesn't like rolling more dice?
It's true.
Except for, was it Twilight 2000? I remember playing a game like back in the late 90s where like I was attacking with like a minigun and I needed like basically a bucket of D6s. Like it was legitimately like 50 D6s or something like that. So it's like,
The Dragon Ball Z RPG was like that too.
No, it was so much worse. That was so much worse. That was the worst system in the world. Fuck. Don't remind me that existed. Yeah. You literally at one point, I think it wanted me to roll like 1,000 D6 or something, and I'm like, no one got that shit. It's so badly written. All right, so distances for small, medium creatures, melee is the same zone. Close range is adjacent. So he's using zone-based, which I am a fan of. I don't like I'm not always a fan of the fiddly, like, all right, he's like so many meters or feet away per se. I like zones. But like Cypher uses that, Alien RPG or Mutant Year Zero uses that. You can generally do stuff like that in Fate. Like they're all of these simple ones generally zone based for the most part. The number of dice exceeds my max weight at the gym. It's too many dice. Yeah. Large colossal melee is the same or adjacent zone, and long range is 5 zones away. Okay. All right. So once again, once I get to the layout stage, they can pretty this up, like little graphics, like have like a big guy, and then like you have like things on the side to show it instead of just being like plain text. But that's whoever gets as a layout artist can deal with that. I nitpick because I've done so many myself, but it's pretty straightforward. Once it's laid out to be a little bit more clear in the format, I think it'll be more readable. It makes sense. Combat turn order. Everyone makes a reaction check, so like an initiative type thing, or in Pathfinder, I think they use like perception. PCs roll, monsters use the reaction stat, so that's like Cypher, where they just have a static number. Turn orders lowest reaction to highest reaction. Once again, going from lowest to highest. So he's maintained the consistency here, not like old editions of D&D where it's like some are high, some are low. And then PCs win ties. If multiple PCs react, the players decide who goes first. So PCs have priority, and then they get to be creative on who goes when. And then GM decides between monsters. So that this runs very much like Cypher combat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, we all know I like Cypher.
I mean, it's a system that really does work. I think I had mentioned before, like, that's a system that they use in Gloomhaven as well, where the creatures have a set number to go on for their initiative, and, like, when they attack, and they all move at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It works. It's a lot more simpler than initiative. I think of D&D with having like we have it set in Foundry, but like keeping track of it manually would be stupid, which would be like having the whoever has the highest dexterity, right?
Shadow Main says, I like Blades in the Dark. It's just like whatever you say. I run up to the guard. The GM says he shoots you before you get there, and you're like, okay, there, or whatever makes sense. Yeah, Blades in the Dark has a very narrative approach to it, which I do like. But I mean, you can do the same thing in a lot of the other like rules light narrative systems like Fate or Cypher or anything. You could just forego initiative for the most part if you really wanted to. This looks light enough that you could probably do the same. It's only in crunchier games like D&D or Pathfinder that it's a little bit harder to do that without things getting all futzed up. So yeah. PC turn, move and action in any order. Action can be a move again, attack, combo, or make a check.
That's simple.
Straightforward. I like it. None of these like subtypes of actions and stuff like that in, once again, systems I don't need to mention. And then monsters get move and attack in any order. I'm assuming this is like, it'll be move and attack or like special abilities. Basically move and action in any order. I'm assuming because like not everything they do will always be an outright attack, I assume. Yeah. And then he puts like, he lists them as creatures here, he lists them as NPCs here, and he lists them as monsters here. So you may want to standardize your verbiage on that is one point I would make.
Well, in combat turn order, NPCs monsters is differentiated, so it's like that makes sense, I suppose. Because you can't have NPCs and monsters in the scenario, or maybe you're getting into a bar brawl with what were NPCs. You know, those aren't monsters, so there is a differential there. Where did you see creature before that?
Creatures is in the actual roles. NPC for like attacks and
small,
stuff.
medium creatures, large, colossal creatures. Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
that.
and there's creatures there, and then it's NPC up to determining dice and stuff. So like it's not a biggie. It's just it's standard. Standardize the term would be a good idea. Once again, he's early in development. He's probably changing terms as we go. But he's definitely going to need like the standardized like glossary of terms, and then to make it, especially once you get into the nitty gritty, because you're going to get, even in a rules light system, you're going to find those rules lawyers that are be like, well, it didn't say this. So, and then now we have our difficulty scale. So once again, lower is harder because you want lower. So we've got our nice scale, and I always love scales like this because as the GM, you can just be like, it's a difficult thing you're doing. And then you can just point at the chart and be like, difficult's 4. And you're good. Like you were mentioning.
Yeah, I love this scale.
Rest.
It's very simple.
Oh, yeah. Rest. So an hour, a night, 24 hours. GMs decide at the beginning of the campaign. So basically, like they've got like a full rest mechanic, but like you decide when that happens, depending on the style of the campaign. You regain all health and effort and reduce 1 wound severity. Okay, I was a little worried about the whole regain all health and effort, and I'm like, but it's something about wound severity. I don't know what that means, but I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. So all PCs have a maximum of 3 effort points. Interesting. Considering there's a lot of things that cost 3 effort, it sucks that you like, it does suck a little bit that you'd be building up the effort to 3, waiting to use it, but then you can't like gain any more than that. I don't know. I'd have to play it to see if I'd want more effort than that. Plus maybe there's abilities that up it. So you can spend 3 effort to gain 1 die on any check you make. Out of combat, you can spend 1 effort to help and add 1 die to another PC's check. It's the cost effective to do it that way. In combat, spend 3 effort and, god damn it, something in my eye. You want to read this bit?
Yeah. In combat, spend 3 effort and the combo action to add 1 die and 1 damage to another PC's attack check. Or attack or check. Regaining effort. You regain 1 effort on a failed check. Refill your effort pool to 3 when you rest. Is that it?
Yep. All right. So I do like I like karma systems like that like reward you for like little bits, little amounts whenever you fail. 'Cause failing sucks. So I do like that there's like a karma system in here.
I want to see exactly what effort is spent on as a character, or if it's like just this. It's the, I mean, that's pretty self-contained, but like what is it? Just the +1 die that you spend 3 effort on, or are there other things? And if so, like, you're only relying on failed rolls to get effort back?
Yeah, I want to see if there's other effort generation methods by abilities or anything like that, and any ways to raise this 3 cap, because I like the mechanics for it here. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. I definitely see fun ways we could play around with this, but if there's a lot of things that cost 3 effort and your cap is 3, that means there's no wiggle room. You either have enough for the extra die or you don't. Never noticed the wording on that implies you can add 1 damage to a non-attack check. I'm liking it though. I'm liking it so far. This is just the cheat sheet, and there's a few things we don't fully understand yet. So yeah, all right. Let's look at the next pages. What is Sagas? So it looks like he starts with the general "What's a tabletop RPG?" Which, I mean, every book does, just in case you get that random newbie that for some reason this is their first time. Rules light. It's a universal system. Reinforces its universal system. Allows total character customization. That I'm excited for sure. I like systems that let you like Lego brick, like build the house that is your character. So I like that. How to play. What you need. So we're on page. Oh, there are no page numbers. We're on page how to play. I don't know, but tonight they're on the loose. Oh, what? But tonight they're on the loose. I missed something. What? Time to find out how the Sagas is made. Yeah, well, let's get into it. What you need. This book. That makes sense. 2 or more players. Okay, so it scales suggested size 4 to 7, so it should hopefully scales well if that's a suggestion.
Yeah.
So it does require a game master. I'm fine with that. I know solo plays are like a really big thing with a lot of people these days. It's not my dealio. I don't know. If I'm going to play solo, I'll just play a video game. I'm not against people doing solo play, but it's just not my bag.
I will say I like the idea of solo play just because when I was still working like in call centers, me and my buddy had like a little like mini pen and paper setup with a dice that we would just like made up the mechanics on the fly. It was barely a real game, but it was just interactive storytelling, as any RPG is, and it was just to pass the time. Yeah. I think having something with specific rules to be able to sit at a desk by yourself, like especially in a call center setting or something like that, if they'll let you have a dice at your desk, then there you go. You've got enough for, you know, a game that you can run in your head and just do something to pass the time.
It's funny how I say, like, I'm not the hugest person on solo play or something like that, and yet my very own system that is being developed has it. So yeah, like I see the benefits of it, especially for people that do it, because you can not only have fun in like cooperative play or something like that where you don't need a GM, you can just sit down and roll some dice, but also sometimes maybe you do want something personal. It's like reading a novel to yourself or something. So I get it.
Slug is going to be an office classic.
yeah. I want to make Dungeon Slug like so insanely easy to hop into. So yeah, but let's. I'm getting myself sidetracked. I do that a lot. I like solo play when there's a bunch of crunch. I find it difficult to do narrative without anyone to bounce off of. That's the thing, is it like for solo play for me, like that you're not getting the narrative out of it unless it's a pre-written adventure, in which case it's basically a choose your own adventure book. Because you're not getting like the role player like riffing off of people or anything. Day job calls, time to lurk. All right. Yeah, no worries, bud. We'll rip your system apart while you're gone. While you're gone. Yeah. All right. So character sheets. You need. So it looks like you don't need D20s or D4s. You just need everything from a D12 to D6. Or an app. And
it's online inclusive. I like that.
Place to meet could be online. It'd be silly if a game wasn't these days at this point. To be like, you could play online. Checks. Okay, so now we're getting to the nitty-gritty on how checks work in here. To shreds, you say. Gameplay in Sagas revolves around checks. This is how they work. A player character attempts to do something difficult, find a key, attack an enemy, etc. The action must be reasonable, aka you can do it as a person. If the task is not difficult, then no check is required. Thank you. After going through some D&D 5e content lately, like some adventures and stuff like that, where they make you roll for everything, that's annoying as shit. So I like it reinforcing the fact if it's not difficult, don't roll for it. Yeah. So the DM
I
said,
never thought about how much they did that until you fucking mentioned it too.
yeah, it's the pre-written content in D&D. They make you roll for everything, and sometimes multiple rolls. Like there was one thing I had to review lately where it's like it was opening, just getting this one door open during the course of a trap involved like 4 different checks, 4 different rolls, just to open a freaking door.
Yeah.
There's got to be more fun things you could be doing other than that. Like rolling the dice is fun, don't get me wrong, but there's more interesting things to do than just like, yeah, roll for breathing. DC 5. Oh, I failed. So yeah. I appreciate systems that reinforce if it's not difficult, don't roll. The GM sets the difficulty from 1 to 8, as we saw on the cheat sheet, with 1 being the most difficult, 8 being trivial. GM can either tell the players what the difficulty is or keep it a secret. So, like Cypher there, I'm a keep it a secret asshole GM myself usually, although sometimes I'll tell you guys if it's like blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
No changes can be made once the check is rolled to the difficulty. Interesting. Okay, so it is about setting the difficulty, and it's all about modifying the dice afterwards. Note, monsters may have preset difficulties in their stat blocks, like attacks and defense, and there are certain scenarios. So it looks like, I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but if they have preset difficulties and all that stuff, it looks like it may be all player agency on the rolls. So like Cypher and Vagabond and stuff like that, in which case, like, this could be a solo play game, honestly, if that's the case.
Yeah.
The player determines which dice would be used looking at their character attributes and seeing which ones apply. Which dice. The size of the die you roll depends on your character attributes, or attributes, depending how you want to pronounce it, and equipment. Multiple attributes might apply to a single check. If an attribute or equipment states you must use a certain die, that is the die that must be used. If no attributes or equipment state you must, if no attributes or equipment state you must use a certain die, use the smallest die allowed by your attributes and equipment. We definitely got to trim down on some wording here. Definitely saying the words attributes and equipment a little bit too often. If more than one applicable attribute or equipment state you must use a certain die, use the largest of those dice. If no attributes or equipment apply, use D10 unless the roll is an attack without a weapon. In that case, use a D12.
Jesus Christ, that's a mouthful.
I might have to read that again. My smooth brain didn't quite pick that one up. Multiple. So it says on your character sheet what applies to what then. here? Depending on your character attributes and equipment?
I kind of get it, but what I would rather see here than that big block of text is a chart showing it. I feel like it's a much easier way, because also it's wording. It's like magic, where like if it says you must, then you have to use that particular die. If nothing on your character sheet says you must for a particular role, then you can use the smallest die. But if there's more than one applicable thing that says must, you have to use the largest of those die.
Yeah, I'm getting it
if
now.
It applies, use a D10. If the other thing, use a D12. It makes sense, but like that is a lot for
that lot.
Sentence.
From like a programmer standpoint, this is a very big if-then structure. So if it was presented a bit more in like a chart format, be like, you know, like cause and effect, like trigger an event, then that would probably be a little bit easier in the first time. But just hearing over and over attributes and equipment, if then, attributes, equipment, if then, attributes, equipment, if then. I'm getting it now that I'm rereading it, but on that first read, that's a little tough. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, so there's certain case scenarios where you got to use certain size dice.
I understand why they did it. Because it's clearly defined, like for each thing, this is what happens, but there is an easier way to convey that, I think.
Yeah, it's the rules themselves are not bad. The verbiage just needs a little bit of work. But like, I'm sure once he gets to the editing stage, I'm not sure if he's going to do all the editing himself or if he's getting an editor, or whoever helps you with the layout. Little bit of cleanup's going to be needed for sure. How many dice? Normally only one die is used. However, you can spend effort to add a die to your roll using an action. Another PC can help out of combat, costs 1 effort, or use the combo action in combat, costs 3 effort. Add a die to your roll. Multiple PCs. Oh, so multiple PCs can help you.
That's interesting.
So you could spend effort yourself for an extra die, and then each PC could technically help you. So it is possible with teamwork to get like 4 or 5 dice or whatever. Which, I mean, that's not too bad. It promotes teamwork. It promotes thinking. You're not constantly getting extra dice. So I like that.
And then you roll all of them and use the lowest result, which is cool.
Okay, so you've got to think about it a little bit more before you like spend resources or rolls or anything, because of how rarely, so far at least, you seem to be generating effort. Because it can take you numerous rolls before you generate enough effort to boost yourself even once. So you got to plan. You got to be careful. I don't mind that, and especially with the teamwork working around. Okay. All right. Now, with the core spending pool of effort being generated through rolls, then that means that in certain scenarios, that's going to be more difficult than others. If you're in a RP heavy session where very few rolls have been made, then the rolls you make are going to have less effort behind them to be generated. So it really depends on the situations you go with, but hopefully you have less effort you need to spend in those situations. Inspiration follows. It'd be good to see it explicitly stated that the helping player NPC is the one to spend their own effort. Did it not say something like that? I think it said it in the rules for... let's see the organization. You can spend effort. Another PC can help out of combat, costs 1 effort. Okay, so a clarification in there wouldn't hurt. It did state elsewhere about helping in the cheat sheet. I'm sure there's probably like a list of actions later on. Yeah, I think there's a list of actions later on where it clarifies that. Probably wouldn't hurt. You're right to clarify it here as well, but I don't think that's a biggie, to be honest, because it does clarify it in several places. Yeah, rules and rulings. It's all about that one super important check. Willingly failing checks. Sometimes a PC may want to fail a check. For example, if they can't move out of the way in time, another PC can push them. I can also think of like how many times in our games, like someone's been like, that doesn't make narrative sense for me to pass this. I'm just going to fail because we're good like that. So I can see that. This so normally this would require a contested roll. So that's the first time I've heard the contested roll mentioned. But if the shoved PC wants to move, so if it's one PC against another, I'm assuming that's what contested roll means. Willingly fail a check does not award effort. Okay. So no effort fishing. I can see why I did that. It sucks that there's it's just in there to be like, hey, you don't always have to roll the check. You can just be like, I don't. It's just a clarification on the rule. And this way people can't just be like, I'm going to have my buddy like forcefully push me 3 times in a row in the tavern so that I've got effort enough for the next dungeon. You get asshole players like that.
It's teamwork. What are you talking? It's teamwork.
It's teamwork. We're going to wrestle a bit, and that way I'm all pumped up. Did you want to do the next part? I've been talking a lot.
Sure. For GMs, setting difficulty. There are some situations that don't have specific rules for them, like shoving a creature out of a zone. In those scenarios, the GM should set a difficulty, not roll. So once again, very much like Cypher. Nearby propane tank explodes mid-combat. The GM determines the explosion would affect everyone in its zone, including monsters. The GM will set a difficulty for avoiding the explosion. While PCs get to roll an avoid check against the difficulty, monsters will rely on their defense stat. If the explosion's difficulty is equal to or lower than the monster's defense, then the monster is automatically hurt in the blast with no rolls needed. Example 2, a PC is in a zone that is over capacity and cannot attack. Instead, the PC attempts to shove a giant spider out of the zone. The spider does not have anything to roll against in its stat block, so the GM determines a difficulty based on the scenario, size of the spider, terrain, etc., and the PC rolls the check.
Okay, so we haven't seen the rules for zone capacity yet, but I know what that's going to be already just by the name of it, and I love that. I don't know why I hadn't thought about that in other zone-based RPGs, because you don't really see that.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, thank you for giving examples. I would like to see more examples in some of the other stuff, actually. Like each time you're doing one of these like new rules, and a short example doesn't have to be like multiple, but like at least one short example would be super nice.
Yep.
Especially in that big if-then structure for the witch dice. That would be nice.
Contested checks. Sometimes PCs and or NPCs can find themselves in direct contest with each other, like if one is lying to the other or they arm wrestle. In those scenarios, a contested check is needed. Instead of the GM choosing a difficulty, the players each roll a check. The player that rolls lower on their check succeeds, and the player that rolls higher fails. If the results are the same, both checks are re-rolled. Failing a contested check against a PC does not award any effort. NPCs have character attributes and are built like a PC instead of a monster.
Oh.
Which is why there's a differentiation between monster and NPC.
Ah, there is a differentiation. Okay.
If a PC fails a contested check against an NPC, the PC is awarded 1 effort point. PCs win ties instead of re-rolling.
Okay.
If 2 monsters attack each other, treat their stats like their rolls. Let them fight. The one with the lower number will always win the check. If the checks are the same, roll a d10 for each monster. The one with the lower number wins the check. If the monsters make a contested check and don't have the necessary stats for the check, the GM determines which succeeds based on the scenario.
It feels very similar to Cypher in the way a lot of that works, to be honest, which is a good thing. That's very streamlined.
I love a good kaiju battle, you know?
Yeah. If anything, it's actually got one, I would actually say it's got a benefit over Cypher, because in Cypher, there's none of that, like if 2 NPCs meet and they're the same level, the only resolution is GM figure it out. Whereas in this one, there's at least the D10 roll to be like, all right, let's give a little randomness to this. So if anything, there's actually like a little bit of a benefit, like, because it's got a die tiebreaker there. So I'm for that.
Effort is a way to symbolize the short-term energy a PC has. All PCs have an energy pool which can hold up to 3 effort points. NPCs do not have an effort pool. Spending effort on yourself. By spending all 3 effort points, you can add 1 die to your own check before you roll. This does not require an action, but must be done before the roll is made. There are also certain wounds that can be healed with your own effort, like the giant spider's wound, web covered. There are also some talents that require effort, like parry and counter. The last way to spend effort on yourself is to continue fighting after reaching 0 health. See death/0 health in the combat chapter for more details. See, that's what I was waiting for.
I'm really hoping there's a way to increase your effort maximum cap, because I still feel at this point there's a lot of things effort seem to be spent on, and the fact that you can't bank any more than 3 when so many things cost 3 feels a little tight, a little too tight.
Especially when you're only able to replenish them on a rest or when you're failing.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's some sort of talents or abilities or something that raise that cap. I don't mind it starting at 3, but I am hoping that we find something that raises that cap. Yeah.
Spending effort on others. Out of combat, you can spend 1 effort point to help another PC or NPC, which adds 1 die to their check. One of the best ways to spend effort is through the combo action. By spending 3 effort on your turn in combat, you can add 1 die and 1 damage to an ally's next attack. For details, see combo attack in the combat chapter. See, I have a hunch that there is never going to be anything that brings 3 over max, and that is going to be a problem. Mainly because if I have to decide whether I want to help somebody in combat or whether I want to bank it to save myself in combat, I'm choosing the better option every time.
Yeah. Not to mention some of your abilities, maybe using effort. Yeah, I'm hoping effort goes up. We'll find out.
Regaining effort. You regain 1 effort point whenever you fail a check, showing your determination to improve or frustration with failure. You regain 3 effort when you rest as well. There are also some attributes that allow you to regain effort, like Soul Suck. That's kinky.
Did attributes, or did he mean ability?
Well,
I feel like he meant ability there rather than attributes. Goliath always beats David unless one of them is a PC. Yeah.
Hold that thought for. I just need to skip ahead and see like one example of this. I'm just like bringing up a monster stat when I find it. Monsters. Here we go. It had to mean ability instead of attribute.
Okay. Yeah, because I haven't seen like the character sheet or like a monster stat block or anything like that. You know what? I should make notes while we're doing this. What am I doing? There's no page numbers. Under effort, description. Let's see here. Gaining effort. And then I'll put in the line. This. And then, do you mean ability? Okay. So pretty sure that's just a typo, wrong word. Okay. All right, character creation. Let's see how this shit works, shall we? Because I'm excited if it's going to be like a piecemeal, like build your own shit from scratch.
Yeah. Take away. Oh, take it away, Kat. I've got the pasties.
You got the pasties. Player characters in sagas don't have classes or species with a set level structure and predetermined abilities. It sucks that he has to say that. I get why, because most of the players that are going to be playing this, or a lot of them, probably have a foundation in D&D or Pathfinder or something. So I get why. It just sucks that he basically has to say it. Soul sucking is a trait. Oh, I don't know. We'll have to look at that one. So you can mix and match your character's attributes in almost any combination, allowing for some extremely unique and powerful builds. Maybe attributes means something different. This process is for creating both PCs and NPCs. Players play PCs and GMs play NPCs. The only other difference is that NPCs cannot use effort. Okay. Straightforward. Build guide. You need a few things to create your level 1 character. So this is a level. This is the first time they've mentioned it. So it's a level based system by the looks of it. So you get 3 maximum health. So I'm not sure how the damage system works yet, but with 3 health, that's it's going to be nice and tight. I don't mind that. 3 effort, 2 traits, 2 struggles. Optional, you may start with 3 traits instead of 2. If you do, you'll start with 3 struggles. So it's like a boon and flaws system or something like that. 3 talents, all at rank 1. So the talents, so you can level up. Maybe you can level up your talents, or is talents like skills? I guess we'll find out. If the GM allows it, any or all of these talents may be powers instead. Okay. 2 pieces of equipment the GM allows. So it's definitely not an equipment heavy game. Your backstory. So I'm hoping backstory is a little bit more like character arcs in Cypher and a little less like backgrounds from D&D. And then your character description.
Optional, and that I don't know. It triggered a response in me that I didn't like.
Why?
I don't know what it is. I just read character backstory optional. It's like wait, what? Well, which I guess I can understand if you're building the story of your character as you go along.
Well, that's the thing. If you're starting it as like a level 1 like nobody, because like maybe you're doing kids on bikes or something, and you're just like, you don't have much of a backstory. Like if you're an 8-year-old kid, I mean, what have you done? So I can see why it's optional.
I once skinned my knee on the swings.
And I don't know yet if there's mechanics behind this. So this may just be like, just write a backstory, like narrative. So I guess the next part. Let's see. Next part. Backstory. Hey, I haven't looked at this yet, people. It can be difficult inventing a backstory for your character, especially if it's your first time. Here are some helpful questions to get you started. You can use all of these or some of them. And then there's some like questions. Okay, so it doesn't seem the backstory has a mechanical aspect to it. It's literally just like old school, like, hey, is there anything about your character? I don't know. Haven't really decided yet. Yeah, that's a good backstory.
You might not want to make a backstory for your character, and that's okay. Okay, I get it. Yeah. If you want to like start from scratch, like as your character starts, that makes sense.
In a game like this where it is relatively rules light, but it also seems to have a bit of a narrative flair to it. I wouldn't mind seeing something closer to like the way Cypher does character arcs. Basically almost like your own personalized goal or quest that has some mechanics behind it. I don't know how advancement works in this yet. I haven't seen any mention about like experience points or advancement points or anything like that. Also, I don't even know if they level separately or as a group, so we'll find out. Considering we're getting to leveling up. When to level up. When the GM allows it, all the PCs level up at the same time. Okay, so it's a group leveling thing. So you're carrying each other. Normally this will be right after a major plot point or after every 2 to 3 sessions. Okay, so there's no points or experience or anything. It is a milestones only system. The GMs may choose to have the PCs level up more often or less. So milestones only. I'm fine with that. I mean, in D&D, honestly, I only use milestones because the XP was stupid.
I haven't used XP in. I think the last time we used XP was Old Dungeon Slug, and even then, it was a weird loose system of XP.
And that was like a hacked version of D&D. In like a normal D&D game, I've only used experience points once for 5th edition, once, and I didn't like it. So, because the CR system was broke. But yeah, this is not. I won't get on a rant about that. But yeah, and there's some systems I do like Cypher requires experience points because it's used for more than just advancing your character. So there's systems I do like it.
It's not like you're dealing in the thousands. It's like you basically get, what is it? You need 4 squares to level up, or to level up to the next tier.
Mm-hmm.
So that is 16 points each.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty easy to keep track of.
And it's as a resource pool. Whereas like something like this, since it looks like it's a level based, like it's an all or nothing, and like you're bumping up a level. Milestones is fine. You don't need anything else. So I think I prefer the fact that it's this over probably a needless number experience system that has only one use anyways. So I think that's a good design decision. How to level up. When the GM allows you to level up, increase your current and maximum health by 1 and spend 2 rank points in talents and or powers. To spend a rank point, increase 1 talent or power by 1, or learn a new talent or power at rank 1. I get what it's saying here. This could be worded better, though. Some talents, you could actually combine that in like one sentence. Some talents and powers require more than 2 ranks to receive the next benefit. For those, you may need to spend a few ranks so that receiving a benefit so you can get a powerful boost the next time you level up. Important, your rank in any one talent or power cannot be higher than your level. All right. No extreme min-maxing. Got it. Once you run out of toes, it's too many numbers. Well, it depends how many toes you got. Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward. Once again, the verbiage, like when he gets the editing and stage and whatnot here, I'm sure he's going to clean up the verbiage a bit here. This can easily be trimmed down the way it's explained. But it's straightforward. No problems there whatsoever. Nice and easy. It's not a bunch of things to remember, and it's since everything relies on these talents and powers, it seems customizable so far. Okay.
Here's what I was waiting for. Combat.
Oh, I just realized. Okay, I am. I was like, am I running my camera in Discord so you can see me as well? I am. Okay.
Yeah. Every time you see me like look over to the side, I'm looking at you.
Aww.
Helping you review a book and also making quick maps on the fly for tonight.
Multitasking.
Yeah, as we do.
Yeah. I'm reviewing a book and being in incredible amounts of pain. I'm also multitasking. Combat begins when a fight breaks out in the story. There are 2 ways to play through a combat scene in Sagas. Theater of the Mind, or Theatra of the Mind.
Never heard of it.
Also, I like the fact that he spelled theater R-E. I see American spellings all the time where they do replace it with E-R. And as Canadian,
you feel like a patriot?
I get irrationally angry. So Theater of the Mind, where there's no map and the players and GM imagine the scenes as it plays out. You can also use just a rough or abstract map as well. Or a battle map using miniatures and model terrain or virtual tabletop software. I'm hoping there's a Foundry module for this, for the character sheets and stuff. Parallel processing at its finest.
It wouldn't take much to put this kind of system together in Foundry.
Oh, no. This would be very easy to put together in Foundry. Using a physical battle map, you can estimate distances. A space 3 to 4 inches across should represent approximately 1 zone. Okay, so if you're using like physical minis, this way you can use like the existing like minis that would fit in a 1-inch square. So a zone being 3 to 4 inches across, you can actually fit quite a few people in a zone then. Of like normal, medium-sized, small-sized creatures.
Yeah.
And it looks like there was
limits. That's what I'm also looking forward to seeing what the limits are in those zones.
I do like that fact that like so many zone-based RPGs don't actually state how many things can fit in that zone. So that's a neat thing. Well, I'm hoping we'll probably get to that soon, I think. Starting combat. When someone attacks, everyone makes a reaction check, and monsters use their reaction state. Okay. So once again, they have a static number, which I'm a fan of. This will determine the order of combat. Once everyone has rolled and has a reaction, combat begins starting with the lowest reaction, then the next round, then the next lowest, and so on. Once again, keeping in line, lowest to highest. After the last turn ends, round 1 is complete, and round 2 begins, repeating the whole shit over and again. Optional, you may delay your entire turn, which permanently increases your reaction for that combat. Delaying your turn does not allow you to interrupt another creature's turn. Okay. So I like the fact that if you do the equivalent of like a D&D hold action or something like that, it's like you're just shifting yourself in the initiative order. I would like a clarification. What if you're already last in the initiative, but you want to delay your turn further? Do you wrap around to higher in the initiative order? I'm going to write that one down. Combat. Starting combat. Delay turn. What if you are last and delay your turn? Do you wrap around? Because like in a lot of round by round systems like this, like where you're not re-rolling again or anything like that, once the first round is done, it actually doesn't matter what order people are going in, because it's just everyone's taking their turn in sequence. So the beginning of the round isn't special anymore. So yeah. I can't see why it couldn't wrap around. But it would be nice to have a clarification for that. Readying weapons. Once per turn, you may withdraw or you may... I think you meant just draw, not withdraw. Withdraw or stow a piece of equipment from a readied position. You know, what am I doing? Oh, I'm not doing this in Acrobat. I'm like, I could just make notes in the PDF, but I didn't open this in Acrobat because my Acrobat reader's acting funny.
You know, I constantly forget that, like, drawing a weapon is a thing.
We hand wave it a lot in a lot of the systems.
I just assume you like, why would you be in a situation like that where you wouldn't have your just weapon out or have it at the ready? Like, I wouldn't even give it as like anything that takes away an action or autonomy from them. It should be a natural reaction to be like, oh.
Well, in games like D&D and stuff, it's more about the fact that if you're weapon swapping, it's about like putting your bow away, then getting out the sword and then attacking. Yeah. Which I think is kind of tedious, to be perfectly honest. I think that's part of the reason we just hand wave it. We're like, yeah, you're switching to your bow. That's fine. Just switch to your bow. It's like, tedium isn't needed for fun necessarily. So we tend to hand wave it. So once per turn, you may, I know he meant to do, I'm going to make another note on that one too. So, readying weapons. Did you mean draw instead of withdraw? Because those are different words. Or stow a piece of equipment from a ready position, like drawing a sword, holstering a gun, or deploying a shield. So this does kind of have the same downfall as 5e. Like, if you want to put a bow away and then draw a sword, I feel like that's probably going to end up taking your action, because like the readying, your free readying thing only happens once. It's something I would probably, like, I see why it's in there, especially like people used to D&D. It's something I would probably just hand wave away, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, as stated, it generally ends up happening that way.
Yeah. A PC, NPC turns. On their turn, a PC or NPC can take a move action and a combat action. So before he just called it a move, but now he's calling it a move action. Which I haven't looked at like an action list or anything yet. If move is a type of action, then and it's in the list of like combat actions, he probably doesn't need to differentiate that here. He can just say an action. Oh no, I guess he does have to move action because it's specifically that one for free and a combat action, which could be a move action. Okay, never mind. I talked myself out of it. Sometimes I gotta say it out loud before my smooth brain catches up. Yeah, combat actions can be attack, move, combo, or make a check. Short list of actions. Interesting. So make a check is the catch-all for anything else. Movement checks do not require a combat action, only a move action. Okay, seems pretty straightforward. As long as someone isn't blocking with a shield, firing a crossbow, and then swinging a great axe, I couldn't care less about weapon swapping. Yeah. Yeah. I get that, and I think we're the same.
The only time I'd allow it is if they have multiple arms.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have multiple arms, then you can do all of those things. Yeah, if you're just switching from, like, a gun to, like, you know, you pull it out like a maul or something... Like, it sucks if you'd have to take your entire round just to do that. Be like, all right, I'm swapping weapons next turn. It sucks. Okay, attack. The most common combat action is attack. The player rolls an attack check against the monster's defense or the NPC's avoid check. Okay. If the PC is using something... So it sucks that they're different names, but I can see why, because I bet the PCs have an avoid check as well, since an NPC is basically a PC without effort. Although they probably could have renamed Monster's Defense also to avoid. Nah, I guess that'd be confusing. No, it's okay. I like it. If a PC is using something other than a weapon to attack, and the attack has no applicable attributes, the attack must use a D12. Okay. So if it's not like some super speedy weapon or something that uses a different thing, then use a D12 by default. The attack roll is less than or equal to the monster's defense or NPC's avoid check. The attack hits and the monster loses 1 health. If the attack is above the monster's defense, the attack misses and the PC gets 1 effort point. The PC rolls a 1 on any of the dice used for the attack. They landed a critical hit. The target loses 1 extra health. This usually results in the target losing 2 health total, but some character attributes or combo attacks may increase the damage further. Yeah, I saw that combos. Initially, they mentioned about getting the extra die, but then just above here, it mentions they get an extra die and an extra point of damage when they do the combo. Describing the scene, role-playing combat is not just rolling dice and dealing damage. What sets it apart is describing what your attack looks like when it happens. I like that. We do that.
Yep.
Because yeah, I hit and deal damage is stale. Once again, certain games kind of enforce that. I flip my daggers around into a backwards grip as I leap off the pillar. Time seems to slow as I fly through the air before plunging my blades into the monster's hide. So I like it reinforces the RP for the attacks. Cool. If there's rules, I don't know if there's rules for using checks to affect the the monsters in different ways, like in Cypher, where you can be super creative with it. If all you can do to affect the monsters is the attack, then this is just fluff, which is fine. I'm hoping you can be more creative with your actions, though. Move action. A PC or NPC can move to an adjacent zone using their move action. Okay, so it's their move action to move to an adjacent zone. So I feel like within your zone, you don't have to like state that you're using anything. You can probably just move around freely. When a PC moves in combat, the movement may require a check. The difficulty of the check depends on the situation and terrain through which they are moving. And and then he gives a bunch of things that probably would be better in a chart, like the different terrains. Oh no, he just gives some examples. So just differentiate these as being examples. So either say it's example or maybe give a chart for different types of terrains. Actually, you probably don't need a chart since you have the difficulties chart. Just say this is an example. If the check succeeds, the NPC can move to an adjacent zone unless their character attributes restrict their movement or allow them to move further. On a failed check, the PC gains 1 effort point and does not move, ending their move action. They can use their combat action to try again if they so choose. As part of their move action, a PC can ready or stow 1 item from an accessible position. Example, deploy a shield or holster a gun. So they get 2 around. They get a ready weapon for free once per turn, and then as part of the move action, they get another one, basically. Am I reading that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As part of their move action, a PC can ready or stow 1 item from. So yeah, it's giving them an additional kind of use of that, being able to stow or ready something.
Okay. So as long as they're taking a move action. Okay. All right. So it doesn't take up your action if you wanted to like swap weapons per se, but it would be part of your move action. So if you're not moving out of the zone, that move action would still have to be used to ready and swap. Combo action. Combo. By spending all 3 effort points and taking the combo action, you can pull off an epic team attack with your allies. Picking an ally and describe how you're combo with them to assist their next action. When your ally attacks or makes a check, they add 1 die to their roll. If hit with an attack, the target suffers 1 additional point of damage. I like the fact that it adds not just extra dice, but extra damage.
Yeah.
I wish more systems did that. Like, it doesn't just make it easier, but like you're hitting them harder. If the target ally doesn't attack or can't attack on their next turn, they will get an extra die on whatever check they make that turn. The bonuses from the combo action only last until the beginning of your next turn. That's a nice little addendum there. If like for some reason something like they get like paralyzed and then they have to make a check to get unparalyzed, then your combo action isn't completely wasted. They're still going to get a little help out of it. So I like that. And there's a note in describing them like narratively. Monster turns. On their turn, a monster can move and attack. To move, a monster moves a number of zones equal to its move stat. Oh, so monsters can be fast as fuck, boy. Helps get rid of that, oh, I should have just attacked as well problem. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. A monster can move across any terrain without making a check, but it... that's interesting. A monster can move across any terrain without making a check. That makes sense, because it doesn't feel like you're really rolling for monsters. Interesting that they basically all ignore any sort of like difficult terrain or stuff, though. It's interesting. It cannot swim or fly unless stated in its move. To attack, the monster targets a creature, object, or area as described in the attack it is using. All creatures in the targeted area or the individually targeted creature must make an avoid check against the attack's difficulty. So this confirms it is all player agency. So this could easily be run as a solo or co-op RPG without like any hacks needed to the system.
Yeah, just recommended with a DM.
Yeah. So yeah, easy conversion. It's just there just have to be like preset mechanics for generating like the story beats or in adventures or something like that. Easily, if people wanted to do this as solo or co-op, no problem. On a success, nothing happens. On a failure, the affected creature loses 1 health and applies any applicable wounds at severity 1. If the wound is applied or already applied, its severity increases by 1. If the target is a PC, they also receive an effort as with any failed check. Okay, I like it. So I wasn't thinking about the fact that they're rolling defense dice and stuff as well. So like effort generation does seem like it would be happening fairly regularly. I'm still not sold on the 3 cap. No kappa. But we'll see. We're still going through this. I don't know how long this document is. I may be here a while.
It's like 30 pages.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's actually shorter than me doing the D&D playtest yesterday, which I kind of skimmed over.
I caught like the last like minute of that stream, and it's like, oh god, that must have been a nightmare.
Adam's gonna hate it. They wrecked druids. Like, I won't get into it too much here because it's not what we're talking about on this stream. But rogues got some love. The other classes kind of got a little fucked up. They've backpedaled on so many things, saying, "Oh, we're just resetting this to the 2014 version" on so many things, and then they completely wrecked druid to the point where it doesn't even feel like playable. So yeah.
Oh no,
Adam's not gonna like that. All right. Held actions. All creatures can hold actions, waiting for a specific trigger before they take their action. For example, if a bandit only comes out from behind total cover to shoot, then immediately returns the total cover, a PC can hold their action to attack the blah, 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 the trigger. So there is a difference between holding your entire turn and holding your action. So you can shift your entire turn or hold your action. Okay. And it works like we would expect with there being a trigger. Now, one thing it needs to clarify here, because this is a mistake that actually 5e made because it was stupid the way it did it. You need to clarify whether your action happens before or after the trigger. Like if the bandit's action is to pop out and shoot, and your trigger was, oh, if I can see the bandit attacking somebody, I'm going to attack. Is your attack going to happen before or after that bandit?
Yeah.
So yeah, that needs to be clarified.
It's a good point.
Zones. In sagas, distance in combat is measured by zones. Yes, thank you. They can be squares, hexes, circles, vague, borderless areas, the shape of a cow. I added that last one, etc. Regardless of their shape, zones are 15 to 20 feet or 4 to 6 meters across. Thank you for having metric in there. Thank you. I'm tired of ones that only have freedom units. Each zone has a capacity of 10. Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that because he said it was they're either 3, like if you're doing like a battle map, it's either 3 inches or 4 inches across. 3 inches would give you 9 squares in that case, or like nine normal squares for like minis to fit in. Maybe you could fit that 10th in, and then 4, of course, you got more than enough because you got 16. So yeah, that's so capacity of 10 makes sense. Small. Oh, I see. Oh, no, wait a minute. Small creatures take up 1, medium creatures take up 2, and large fill up almost the entire zone, taking up 7 capacity. Interesting. Oh, I didn't expect that one. Okay.
Colossal creatures fill multiple adjacent zones?
Yeah. So this is the first time he mentions the colossal size category, because he only mentioned large earlier. Once again, we do need a glossary.
Colossal were mentioned like in the cheat sheet.
Oh, did he mention colossal?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he just mentioned large. Oh yeah, large colossal. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So you can only have 5 people in a zone. Like 5 regular like humans per se. Okay. Well, I see why though, because it's like 4 to 6 meters across, 5 people in that during combat. Yeah, makes sense. Checks out. Monster is probably in its home turf most of the time. You can't all be on the same zone as the dragon. Well, it looks like... Well, okay, dragon would probably be colossal. Oh, I see. But still takes up... I like that. Still takes up 7 capacity in each. So even if it's across multiple zones, you still have that little room to squeak a person or two in. And...
Or 3 little people.
This is making me want... Like, can you attack if you're... Melee attacks, do you have to be in the same zone? Yeah, melee, you have to be in the same zone. So this one, I'm not sure. This one feels a little janky to me. Because say it's a colossal creature. So he's taking up 7 capacity, say in 2 zones. So that means there's 3 capacity left in these 2 zones. Which means only 1 person can fit in each of these 2 zones. Which means that despite the fact that there may be this giant dragon standing in the middle of a field, only 2 melee attackers could attack it.
Yeah.
That feels a little janky to me.
And 2 melee attackers if they're not medium size. Because if it's 7, you have 3 spots remaining. A medium creature takes up 2 of those spaces. So you could have 3 small people or 1 medium person and 1 small person, and that's it with that dragon.
Well, this is a 2 zones, so that you'd have like a total of 6 capacity. So you could have 2 medium and like 2 small in total attacking this dragon. So say your PCs are all medium.
6 hobbits.
Yeah, 6 hobbits. So say your PCs are all medium. Say your PCs are all human. That means that this giant dragon in the middle of an open field can only be stabbed at by 2 people with the swords, and the other people with the swords can't get close to it. So that part, I think, needs some thinking about. You could flavor it as them taking up only the only viable space. Clarification that I'll have to edit in to make clearer. Oh, okay. Then it's saying something. It might just be something we're not understanding. Because right now it says melee is the same zone, but you can only fit 1 person in that available space in each of those zones right now. So like if you're in an adjacent zone, that's close. I'm just seeing what he types before we move on. And then sometimes a zone might have a capacity less than 10. Train car. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're not going to fit a giant ass dragon ass inside of like a tiny train car. A medium creature adjacent to a large creature is in the L's melee, so they can both melee attack each other. Okay, so if it's in an adjacent zone, it can still melee attack? Okay, that needs to be clarified. That needs to be clarified, because right now rules as written what you have here, they can't do that. Melee for L is adjacent zones, so melee can both go both ways. Okay.
That's the melee for the large creature, because the large creature has a range of, what was it, 5? And
I see.
The colossal creature had a range of 7 or something like that. That was also in the cheat sheet.
Okay. So it's just because we haven't gotten to the distances yet that I think it clarifies it a bit there, but a single word clarification, it needs to be reworded a bit here just so it's not as confusing, because right now if we just take this zones thing, you can't attack. But in the distances,
what it says is for distance, for small medium creatures, melee is the same zone, close range is adjacent 1, mid range is 2 zones away, long range is 3. Large or colossal creatures, melee is the same or adjacent zone, long range is 5 zones away.
Okay, because I was only looking at this first sentence in the distance thing saying that melee is same zone, not realizing that it then says down here melee for that it's different for other things, medium and large creatures.
Also, I mean, it's still the same point still remains though, because that means sure the large or colossal creature can attack outside of its zone, but the problem that we're facing is that the medium creature has to be within the same zone, and therefore it's limiting the amount of like of how it makes sense for people to be able to.
Well, it does clarify here: a medium creature and a large creature in adjacent zones are considered in melee with one another. So it can take up a zone next to it and still be considered in melee. It feels a bit messy. I'm not going to lie. I feel like this could be streamlined a bit better because there's a lot of, like, if the system means that, oh, it works this way, unless this outlier happens, then maybe work it this way. I feel like you could probably, there's probably a fix for this. So you don't have to have a little sidebar to like patch it in. Yeah, I mean, it works. And I love the zone combat, but I feel like there's a little bit of messiness here that probably needs to be play tested out. I'm understanding it. I definitely think this is something we would want to try and play test and see how it turns out. I feel like there's something with the zones here that can be adjusted. Something feels a little messy. This is the first thing I've run across in the system that I feel like needs a little bit of rework. Considering this is an early beta test, I'm very surprised at that. So don't take it as negative. That's I mean, I've had to basically rework the entire Dungeon Flux system like twice, so that happens. Yeah, no, that's good. And then ranged attacks. So I'll read through the distance bit. Most attack distances are broken into ranges: melee, same zone; close, adjacent zone; mid, 2 zones away; and long, 3 zones away. For large and colossal creatures, melee is the same zone and adjacent zones, and the long range is 5 zones. A medium creature and a large creature in adjacent zones are considered in melee with one another. 2 large creatures with 1 zone between them are not in melee with one another. There are some things with unique range specifications like Conjure Storm, which can have a range of 1 mile. So, yeah, I feel like it just needs some clarification and maybe some rewording, a little bit of retooling maybe. I like the way you're doing the zone-based things, but the fact that it works like this for these guys, but it kind of works like this for these guys, and in this situation it kind of works like this. That's a lot of, like, once again, an if-then structure for changing how it works in these situations. So if you want to keep it like this, you do have to organize it in some sort of chart or diagram of some kind. Otherwise, it might need a little bit of retooling. But I do like the fact that you have this capacity in the zones. I would not get rid of that because that is unique and I like it. You just got to think on the clarification on that one. So range attacks can be made against any creature within range of the attack, even ones in melee. The type of attack being done depends on the distance, not the attack's maximum range. For example, a mid-range attack that targets a creature in melee is considered a melee attack, and talents like dodge melee would apply, while dodge ranged would not. That's interesting. I've never seen it done like that in other RPGs. So if you shoot a bow in melee range, it's considered like a melee range attack, and so like their like melee defenses could apply. Huh. Yeah.
Which is a lot better than being like you have disadvantage because you're within 5 feet.
Yeah. Oh, Cypher flips that. They actually give you like a boost. But I like that. I hadn't really thought of that before. Wait till you get the hordes in the monster section. Zones shine there. Oh, yeah. But I like this ranged attack thing. I like the way, I like treating it as an attack for the range that it's being attacked in. I said that very badly. But key is I like that. I think it's pretty cool. Sneak attacks.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, some people might. You're Dane Bramaged enough. Sneak attacks. If a PC or NPC isn't aware of the monster attacking them, the monster's attack is lowered by 1 for this check, making the attack more likely to hit. If the monster is not aware of the PC or NPC attacking them, the monster's defense is raised by 1 for this check, making the attack more likely to hit. Excuse me. If a PC NPC is not aware of another PC NPC attacking them, the attacker adds 1 die to their attack. Okay, so basically just if it's sneak attacks, modify 1 in the direction that's favorable to the sneaky person. Cool. Easy peasy. And he has to give each case scenario because rules. So that makes sense. I have no problem with that. Total cover. Creature has total cover when their full body is behind protection. While behind total cover from an enemy, a creature cannot be targeted. Yeah, makes sense. It's good to have the clarification in there because you're going to have some people that be like, it doesn't say it in the rules. Partial cover. Creatures partial cover when more than half their body is behind protection. If a PC or NPC attacks a monster behind partial cover, their defense is increased by 1, so it's a 1 shift. If a monster attacks a PC or NPC behind partial cover, monster's attack is increased by 1. And then PC versus NPC PC adds a die. Okay. Cool. It's expected. Everything, once again, shifting by 1. Nice and easy. I'm glad that he's not doing, like, in this case, shift by 1, but in this case, shifted by 2. In this case, maybe it'll be the 3. Like, I'm glad it's just, like, in each case, it's just moving by, like, 1. So if they're in partial cover and it's a sneak attack, it's very easy to figure out. Fall damage. The amount of damage you take from falling depends on how far you fall. If you fall 1 zone, no damage. 2 zones, 1 damage. 3 zones, 3 damage. 4 zones, 5 damage. Oh, it goes up exponentially. If you fall further than 4 zones, you die. You know what? I'm okay with that. None of these like hot drop barbarians that can survive deorbiting in D&D. Like, I rage on the way down. Like, just death/0 health. A PC with 0 health cannot regain effort. When a PC drops to 0 health, they can either fall unconscious or continue fighting. Oh, if they fall unconscious, they cannot take turns in combat. They automatically fail any checks that require movement or thought. If the PCs continue fighting, they must spend 1 effort at the end of each turn if they have 0 health. Oh, that's cool. Okay. But they can't regain effort, so at most they've got 3 more rounds left in them, and they can't use any abilities or help or anything like that. If a PC with 0 health takes damage, the health they would normally lose gets taken from effort instead. Okay. Yeah. The instant a PC has 0 health and 0 effort, they die. The attack that drops a PC to 0 health does not cause them to lose effort. Glad that's clarified, actually. A PC can regain health as normal if they are at 0 health. They regain consciousness once their health is 1 or higher. PCs cannot regain health if they are dead. All right, I like that. So if you've got the effort, you can try to keep giving her for a little bit. Yeah, you're not just like instantly like down.
My problem is, again, that ties back to why would I help you on an action if I could rather save those points, especially so now we know you get 3 health and 3 effort, so you essentially have 6 health, because if you get downed after taking that 3 damage or whatever, then it's eating into your effort. So why would I spend effort on anything else?
Yeah.
Especially if it doesn't increase when you level.
Yeah. Well, we haven't looked at the talents or anything yet. I'm still hoping there's something that raises your effort cap, because once again, 3's a little tight. I would like to see a little more wiggle room. Hopefully there is something that increases that. I would like to see that. Even if it's like stupidly costly, like it costs you like 2 talent slots or something, because it did mention some things cost more than 1. I'm hoping there's something that raises that. That would be super nice. Because as you said, like if abilities helping people being dropped, there's a lot of things requiring this effort stat. There's a lot of things banking on it, and you can only have that maximum of 3. Makes it very tight.
Yes.
Yeah. Out of combat. Combat isn't everything. What? Get out of town. No way. In fact, some games of Sagas might go several sessions without it or have no combat at all. I'm fine with that. We've done that. This chapter contains rules like rest and help, as well as suggestions on how to run this kind of play. These scenarios will mostly rely on checks. Makes sense. If a PC wants to lie or sell something, the GM might ask them to make a check, determine if the NPC believes them or buys from them, etc. Once again, it did mention at the beginning of the book, only make checks if it's difficult to do, which is an important thing to remember. Rest. Resting is the easiest way to restore both health and effort. One rest restores all effort, all health, and the severity of one wound of the PC's choice is reduced by 1. I'm excited to see where wounds come in, because it didn't mention wounds in the combat section, which is where I expected wounds to be. So I'm excited to see where wounds are described, because I like injury wound systems and stuff myself. I'm a fan of that. If the severity of a wound is reduced to 0, the wound is removed. The GM determines how long a rest needs for creatures to gain these benefits. Yeah, that was the thing at the beginning of the campaign. They're like, is it an hour, a day, what have you? So here are some suggested restorations, and it goes through an hour of sleep or light activity, a night's sleep, or a full day. Cool. This is good. I guess I should probably read these more in detail. This is ideal restoration for a campaign with a lot of combat for the 1 hour sleep, or if players would rather not have their characters die. Health can be fully regenerated multiple times per day. Most wounds will fully heal overnight. Okay. So yeah, so the because it's slowly getting the wounds back. So like one hour is like superhero mode. Like you're gonna get through some shit. You're gonna survive. Rest is night sleep. This is how most games of Saga should run. Instead of waking up every morning fully healed after almost dying the day before, only one wound would be healed overnight. May take several days to fully heal a life-threatening injury. And then a full day and night of sleep and rest activity. So this is more realistic. So basically you have to take an entire day of downtime, doing no adventuring or something to start getting your shit back. So that's like a gritty mode, which is pretty cool. Oh, it even says, is it for a gritty style of play? Ideal for like a horror game where death is constantly at the door. Yep, yeah. I'm for it. Regardless of how much time a rest takes, PCs are required to sleep for at least 6 hours total for each 24-hour period. That makes sense. If a creature gets less than that, they receive the following wound or its severity increases by 1. Wound exhausted. Checks you make that are unaffected by any character, attribute, or equipment must use a D12 instead of a D10. And then it increases. All checks must use a D10. What? So at level 1 exhaustion, all checks you make that are unaffected must use a D12 instead of a D10. At level 2, it must use a D10. And then at level 3, it goes back to must use a D12.
Because in level 1, it's checks you make that are unaffected by any character attributes. And then in level 2, it's all checks.
Oh, all checks. Okay. See, this is why I have you here to bounce shit off, because I don't read well. Yes, all checks. Okay, that makes sense. You fall unconscious for 24 hours and cannot be woken up by any means. And at the end of that period, this wound is fully removed. So eventually it's not like D&D where it's like, you didn't sleep, you die. It's just, you just fall unconscious until you are not sleepy anymore, which that's kind of a little more realistic. Like, eventually you're just going to fall unconscious and not just die. Help. While out of combat, you can attempt to help another PC or NPC with a check. To do so, it's the 1 effort instead of 3 because it's not combat. Add the die. You cannot help with your own check. You think to yourself, you don't have to clarify that, but you do, because there's people out there you do have to clarify that for. You can only help once per another check, although multiple PCs can help each other on a single check. Makes sense. Scene and summary. There are two types of non-combat play. Scene and summary. In scene, the GM describes exactly what is happening as it happens. It gets played out like a scene in a movie. The example at the beginning of this book is a scene. Was there an example? I might have skipped over it. The other kind of non-combat play is summary. Instead of just describing what happens blow by blow, it is summarized through narration. For example, a player could just tell a GM they want to go buy something in the market. You don't need to play through the entire scene of buying a length of rope if nothing interesting will happen. You just summarize it instead to avoid boring role play. Yeah, I think everyone does that to a degree.
That's why you make something happen when they buy that thing of rope.
Yeah. I have had
that thing of rope, but the shopkeeper is being held up at knife point.
Yeah, that's where you can make it interesting. Yes, I like that. I've had bad GMs before. That's like, oh, you're gonna do a shopping. Well, we're gonna make this just a boring shopping episode, and not like put anything interesting or like information or anything. It was just shopping, nothing else, and we spent an entire fucking session just figuring out numbers for shopping. My gosh. No.
No, thanks.
It's one thing if you're adding story elements or they're discovering something or there's role play involved, but yeah, just skip over the boring shit, people. So I like that it reinforces that, like reminds people, skip the boring shit. Making your own. Perhaps the best part about sagas is that you can fully customize your own character. Using these guidelines, you can create new and balanced traits, struggles, talents, powers, equipment, and even monsters and wounds. Creating a trait must be a static physical feature of the character, not something that can be improved. Okay. Yeah, once again, we need a glossary to define what these things are before we get to the rules and how to use them, just because like until this point, I've gotten to this point in the book and I don't actually know what a trait or an attribute or anything is because they haven't been covered and there's no glossary. So we definitely need something in the beginning of the book to start a glossary just to give us like a brief skinny like rundown. This is this. So a trait must be a static physical feature of the character, not something that can be improved. Okay. A trait must give the PC a passive ability or allow a D8 on checks that benefit from the feature. The trait cannot have limited uses. A trait must not allow checks to be made with a D6. If you have a trait that is too powerful, consider how the people and societies in the game's world would react and develop knowing such a trait exists. Okay. So it's a static modification to the character of some kind. Also,
just creating your own trait, like there.
Yeah, that's for creating your own trait. Yeah. Also, thank you for giving creation guidelines for this stuff. Like I look at like Fate kind of has them, but it's such a loose system that it's kind of all over the place for that. Cypher has it for only a couple of things, and there's like some things in the Cypher system where they don't give you tips on how to generate things, and then like there's like other systems like D&D and Pathfinder stuff give you like basically no advice at all on how to create your own shit. So I like that you have a whole section on just like, hey, you want to create your own shit? Here's how you create your own shit. Here's the guidelines that I follow. So I like that. Thank you very much. Creating a struggle must prevent the PC from making a check or doing an action, or state must use a D12 for a certain check. Cool. Creating a talent/power. A talent or power is something that can be learned and improved. The difference between them is that powers don't commonly exist in our world today or in the past, but talents do. Okay, so talents and powers are similar, but one is more fantastical than the other. It's like the difference between like a manifest cipher in the Cypher system or a fantastical manifest cipher in the Cypher system. Similar but different. Some powers are too powerful. To balance this out, consider limiting the number of times they can be used per rest. Okay, cool. So once again, oh, go ahead.
What I'm getting from talents or power, it's almost like power shifts.
Yeah.
In Cypher.
Yeah, it's like difference between abilities and like power shifts type thing. And he defines it pretty well so far as well. And there's more. I'm not even done. Talents and powers can have multiple ranks. If they do, higher ranks should improve the existing ability, not add new ones. I like the fact that they're like individually levelable. Talents and powers should not increase or decrease the dice size. Instead, they should state may use a D8 or may use a D6. So it's not a modifier like the traits. It is meant to just be its own usable thing. No ranks under 3 should allow a D8 to be used for an attack. No ranks under 5 should allow a D6 to be used for an attack. So the ranks go up. I don't even know how the levels work or anything in this. You see, like if there's a level cap. It didn't say that in the like how to level section. No ranks under 3 should allow a D6 to be used. Nothing should deal more than 1 damage or add more than 1 damage. I like they kind of caps that. It's like your base is 1 damage. If you want more damage, you got to get like people to help you, like teamwork or special circumstances or something, or crits. So, because the damage acts more like checkpoints for the presence of what you're combating against rather than actual like health scores per se. So I kind of like that. Creating equipment must assist in some type of check or allow a unique check that wouldn't normally be allowed, like swimming in heavy armor. So I like the fact that equipment has to have a use. Otherwise it would just be an RP note, basically. If the equipment is high quality, a lower die can be allowed. If equipment is poor quality, a higher die can be required. The equipment must be classified as special or mundane, once again differentiating between whether it's fantastical or not. Special equipment is anything that doesn't exist in our world today. Mundane equipment cannot allow D6s to be used. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So, like, unless this is like super rare, powerful artifact, which is like magical, like your standard whatever climbing gear isn't going to give you a D6. That doesn't make any sense. I like it. Okay. And then he's got a whole thing on creating a monster too from scratch, which is super nice. One suggestion I would make is this whole making your own section, which is super appreciated, by the way, but like for customizing and creating things, since you have not explained how any of these things work yet, I would actually put this after those. Because right now you're giving us the rules in the middle of like all of this on how to make our own stuff when you haven't explained how the stuff works yet. I would put this later in the book.
Agreed.
Because like we now know how to make a trait, a struggle, a talent. But the thing is, I don't know how they work or what they are. So yeah. Definitely would put this later. Creating a monster, also I would put later. Like I would put the creating the monster well, the creating the monster, if you have I don't know if there's going to be a list of monster, like some pre-done monsters in this book or not. If there is, the creating the monsters, you could have at the beginning of the monsters chapter. That's not unusual. Because you've got this and then you've got all the monster stats, although you could put it at the end. Doesn't really matter. But the creating for everything else, yes, please put it after the everything else, I would say. It's like own section. Even if you flushed it out a bit more and it was just its own mini chapter, or even just at the end of stuff, whatever. Yeah. So creating a monster, if you want Sagas to remain math light, turn back now. All right, that makes sense. You gotta have a little bit of crunch. It's not Fate, which is almost too loose sometimes, in my opinion. I love Fate, but sometimes it's like sometimes it feels like there's too little to it sometimes. For a lot of people, at least. Creating a monster can be complicated and most definitely requires a little bit of maths. Without it, there's no way to tell how powerful the monster is. Your epic boss monster might be trivial for the party to defeat, or a nameless goon might wipe them all out. The easiest way to create a monster is to base it on a pre-existing stat block. Make a sea serpent, just modify dragon stats. This is the minimum a monster must have in its stat block. So, name, size, defense, how hard is it to hit? 2 to 3 would be extremely difficult to hit. Most monsters have a defense of level of 4 to 6. If it's big or slow and not armored, 7 to 8 would be appropriate. Reaction, how ready for violence is this monster? So 1 to 3 would be lightning fast. 7 to 8 would be very slow. Move, how many zones it can move in one turn? 1 equals move to an adjacent zone. Different movement speeds, like swim and fly, should have their own movement stat. Health, how many hits this monster can take before it falls. He doesn't give any examples for health, but I guess we'll look at monsters after. Has to have at least 1 attack. Each attack should have a number associated with it. This is the difficulty to avoid the attack. All attacks should be 4 to 6. Something with an attack of 1 or 2 would hit basically every time. So he's warning away against like those low numbers. If the monster is large or colossal, its attack should be either melee or long range, not close or mid range. If appropriate, the attack can't be longer than long range. I feel like this isn't bad. Like he warns it's going to be a lot of math, but I actually don't think it's that much math. I feel like you could streamline it a bit more though. If you look at NPC or monster creation in Cypher, that you can't get much more streamlined than that. Because you have a basic score, and in Cypher it's just called their level, and then you just have modifiers for certain things based on that level. So like there's a static, like, you know, this creature is this level, so everything's going to be that, except maybe because they're large, they have a modification of 1 category difference in their like speed defense or something like that. You could probably do something like that and simplify this a little bit, streamline it a little bit. I'm not saying this is bad. This works, and it's not like overly complicated. Like I've seen way more convoluted bullshit in RPGs. This isn't too bad. You warn about extra math, but honestly, it's not. This isn't that crazy. I'm just saying, if you wanted to streamline it further, you could, if you wanted to. Creating a base score and then just modifying that base score depending on what you think makes sense. Creating a wound. I need a drink. 1 second. Whew. How's your maps coming along?
Good. We'll see how things go tonight, but I have a feeling this is the way that they're going. It's just, they're basically going to be split up on the map, but it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for making allies for them as they're about to walk into a war. So
is it going to be like the jungle thing where they're like appearing forcibly split up?
So what's happening right now, they're trying to take down Titania's wall, which the whole mechanic of taking down that wall is destroying 3 crystals that the wall are emitted from, right?
Oh.
And it has to be broken at the same time. So right now they're finishing the last combat, which is Parappa and Golimov's combat. They went to like this forest area to fight some evil Golimovs and shit like that. Thrun just came in to help them handle that. And then they're going to have to figure out these crystals and how to break them. Once they do that, hopefully nobody who is in the campaign is watching. I doubt it, but
I don't think so.
The explosion from them destroying the crystals is going to throw them all in different directions and have them landing in different spots on the map.
All right, cool. Yeah, that sounds like it's pretty nifty, actually.
Yeah,
I will definitely be lurking as you. Oh no, are you streaming it?
I don't stream that one, but I mean, if you're not doing anything, you can hop in and just listen in on the session. You're always welcome.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure what Lily and I are up to tonight. I have no game or anything tonight myself, to my knowledge, unless something has changed. So we will see. I may or may not just like pop in and lurk.
Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome to.
All right.
It'll be a good one.
Creating a wound. So I like the fact that there's a wound system. I love wound systems in games. That's why I use because lasting damages in Cypher is technically optional. I use them for so much shit. And games like the Alien RPG, the fact that you are constantly getting some sort of injuries or wounds, I just like it. I'm that type of person. Even as a player, I like it. I don't know. I'm this masochist.
I think what I like about this system, having like scouted ahead just a little bit, and from the description so far, is that wounds are unique. Like they're unique to. That's why it's telling you how to create a wound, because wounds are unique to the monsters.
Oh, that's why it's under creating a monster. Okay, let's get into this. The wound must be part of a I'm sure it would probably be helpful if he has like a list of like some generic wounds or whatnot we can pull from. But yeah, I like that. The wound must be part of a monster's attack. Wounds should affect actions or checks the wounded PC is allowed to make. Wounds have levels of severity. Higher levels of severity should worsen the existing effect, not add new ones. So wounds should not increase the dice size. Instead, they should state must use a D10 or must use a D12 for the check. That's why you're not just saying increase it by one step. I like that. Wounds can limit the number of dice allowed on certain checks. Oh, interesting. Monsters can have multiple attack options, attack multiple times in their turn, or even have traits like PCs can, as long as those traits don't have anything to do with making checks. Our suggestion is to play sagas a few times before you're creating your own monster so you get a feel for how powerful monsters should be. Solid advice. Okay. Traits. A trait is something about your character that cannot be changed, improved, or removed. This could be a physical feature, a natural ability you have just by being you. Typically, traits are inherited, but they can really be any permanent feature as well. Aesthetics like horns, a tail, or a metallic sheen are just physical features. Traits give some sort of mechanical advantage like flight, night vision, or other enhanced senses. So in like a fantasy setting, for example, these would be like the types of like racial modifiers or species modifiers or whatever you would get from like that stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Since sagas can be played in any setting, not all character attribute names will be appropriate for your character. You can rename any attribute when you add it to your character sheet, but make a note of the original name as well so you can look up the attribute later. For example, the trait keen ears in the book could be shown as cat ears, keen ears on the character sheet. The same can be done with any struggle, talent, power, or equipment. I really wish he's defined attribute because I still don't know what that means. We're a good chunk into the book and he still hasn't defined what an attribute is. And the thing is like most people coming from like D&D is assuming attribute is going to be like equivalent to like an ability score because those terms are used interchangeably. And I have no idea.
I think my biggest problem here is that you go through all of this and you still like there's no character sheet.
Oh, he has a separate PDF for the character sheet.
Okay, I mean, I can appreciate that, but it still needs to be here somewhere. In the main book, it needs to be here, especially before all of this, because it's still, as you said, like, there needs to be a clear definition of attributes. I don't even know what it would look like. I clearly need the other document to see what the sheet would look like as an example, which is kind of no bueno in a book that's trying to teach you the game.
Well, I think he's had that separately because he's in the middle of updating them separately, so he's dropping them like... I do agree that it should be maybe not the beginning, but you at least tack it on at the end. Not
even a blank character sheet. Show me one that's filled out already. Show me one that's an example.
Oh, yeah.
Within the realm of this, so I know when you're talking about where these traits go, what that means. Because like even looking at this from here, there's not really a clear definition of attributes and everything like that. It's your traits, and then it's your monsters and struggles, and like all the examples of what they are as abilities and stuff like that, but still there's no explanation beyond that of what any of that is.
I would definitely agree with that one. So glossary terms, we need like a glossary list, and then a filled out character sheet. You see that like usually they shrink it down, like it's like a smaller version of the character sheet, whatever. You see it in a lot of RPGs where it's like it's been pre-filled out at the beginning of like the character creation session to be like, here's what your character is going to look like. That would be super helpful for sure. Now I get he's still in a rough stage, like he's not even up to the editing stage or anything yet, but this is definitely something to think about once you start plugging those extra quality of life features in. A small like pre-filled out example character would be dynamite. and the glossary of terms, because I don't know what an attribute means.
For this as a beta document, I think that is an important basic over anything else. All of this is great. Having an idea of all the talents and abilities and stuff that I can choose from is fantastic. But if I don't understand the basics of that, the rest of this doesn't really mean that much to me.
Yeah,
I don't know where this applies.
He says, loving this, definitely going to rewatch and take notes. Last page has pre-gen characters but no character sheet. Make a note on how to get it added, probably in the character creation in. Sweet. Yeah. I mean, when we give criticisms, I hope you don't take it too negatively, because so far we're liking what we're seeing, I think, or at least I am.
I think as a system as a whole, like, this is going to be really fun to play. It seems easy enough to pick up. Like, the mechanics themselves seem really good. I still, even from all this, I don't know what my character would look like, and that's why I'm saying, like, the book from here onward, for traits and stuff like that, it makes sense. Like, affected check, cool, persuasion, die used. So is the attribute that I'm supposed to be looking at that references this persuasion then? Because some of these don't have affected checks.
Yeah, it says affected checks, but then up here it mentions attribute. So I don't know, is affected check the attribute? This I don't know. There's definitely things that need to be clarified. But this is why you release beta test documents. This is exactly what I'm hoping. Like, he seems to be like open to this, so I think it's good.
Yes.
He's not one of those developers that's like, what, you don't like my shit, then don't fucking play it. Those people don't make good games.
No, and it's usually at the point where you're like, I'm good, I won't.
She's like, after my last Dungeon Slug beta test, and a bunch of people gave me a bunch of feedback, I basically sat down and go, well, I need to rework like half the system. So, yeah.
Which isn't the case here. Again, like...
No, he's actually got less work to do in his system than I do.
My bigger gripe was, like, we had a section on character creation that didn't really explain how to create a character. Mm-hmm. And that's important for the basis for the basics of putting this information out there. It's like, if that was there by itself with all of this information, we could run a play test right now if we wanted to. But without that as a crucial element, I couldn't run and test this right now.
Yeah, because like we're this far into the book, and I still understand some core concepts of the system, unfortunately. So some things do need to be reorganized where they are and clarified for sure. Halsey, he says, my current character sheet is ass, badly needs an artist's touch. I feel like I need to reach out and help. But we'll see. I'm so busy lately. But yeah. Okay. So we're actually like looking at some of the traits. I'm not gonna like read through all of them, because once again, I don't understand how some of this works. Getting into listing attributes. Yeah. So like we still don't know what attributes are. Like, are they working like attributes or ability scores in D&D, or is this like a name for like your version of skills? And if it is your name for your version of skills, just because you do have a lot of people moving over from things like D&D and Pathfinder, where ability scores and attributes were kind of used interchangeably, you may want to think of renaming attributes, if this is the case. Because otherwise, you're going to have a lot of people moving over that are going to get very confused. Mm-hmm. Unless they're like... go ahead.
OKS DM was saying in the chat that there's pre-generated characters at the bottom, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you see those 3 characters, but nowhere within the list of like information here does attribute show up. Okay. So what does it mean?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I mean, we still have a lot of book to go through. Hopefully it says something here, although it looks like we're getting to some lists now. So like, for example, attractive. So it gives an affected check. I don't know if that's I haven't seen anything to do with skills. So is that that might be the attribute, I think. So a die used, D8. So people love being around you. It could be that you're pretty funny or well made. When making a check to convince someone to spend time with you, you may use a D8. So you could use D8s instead of the default D10s for persuasion. If you want to experience this in a vacuum, don't read this definition of attributes. Oh, I think he's going to post something else. Okay. I think I'm glad we're doing this as like a first reaction. Like we haven't looked at this yet because it is getting a new player experience. Like instead of me sitting down, like the old timey gamer in me wanted to sit down and like study this first and then do a review on it. But I think that would be, I think it's best to do it this way because then we'll see for people that don't have like decades of experience playing these games, how they're going to experience this book in this order.
And that's the idea, because it had like as the common, it has to be looked at as what the common player is going to perceive. Even like me with a lot of experience, if I'm asking these questions, what about somebody who's just picking up this book to like pick up a TTRPG for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, clear definition is definitely key. But I do like this kind of like already looking at these traits. It's not like feats. You know what I mean? Like they have as much effect on roleplay as they do on actual abilities that your character can do. So I think it's a very cool concept. Yeah,
so far I'm liking all of them and just previewing them a little bit. And they've got a use. They're flavorful in one way or another. Equipment, traits, struggles, talents, and powers are all attributes. Oh! I did not know that. It's things you pick up for your character. I'm having difficulty finding the right words. So attributes, okay, that's where I was confused. So like coming from, so I was thinking you were attributes is referring, okay, as much as I hate to say it, as much as I don't run D&D games and stuff and anymore myself and whatnot, that is the baseline. That is the default in the hobby. So when you say attributes, people are going to assume it's some sort of like attribute or ability score or something like that. I get that attribute word-wise works if that just means that any facet or aspect of your character or something, but I feel like you're going to want to rename attributes, or you're going to get people coming from the other systems that are going to be very confused. I don't think attribute's going to be the right word there. And there's got to be other words you could use, like aspect, like I said, aspect, facet, something like that.
Even elements, those are all elements.
Elements, something like that. Attribute, like I get it now. Now that I realize attribute means all those things, not a problem. But if you've got someone that's only ever played D&D and they've only been playing for 2 to 3 years, and they come here and they go, well, "What's my attribute score?" Because a lot of, especially older GMs, when ability scores used to be called attributes in previous editions, it's going to be used interchangeably. Not the first person to think that. Will be the first thing I fix this weekend. Okay, so we're not the first ones to say that. And it's such a minor thing too. Like it doesn't change any rules or anything per se. It's just the name I think could be different. And literally like almost any other word would probably be fine. Like I wouldn't even have a preference at this point. I just think attribute is not a good one. Yeah. I'm liking the traits though, from what I've seen. And the art, so simple, but I love it. Like I'm on the struggles page now, and I don't know what that weird bat tentacle thing is, but that's dope as shit.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like I don't know what it is or if it has stats or anything yet, but I want to use it, and I get creative just thinking about that. That's really cool design. So kudos to your artist.
Or this little goblin knight with the pumpkin hat, like that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I like that. Vampirism. Fangs kind of. Oh, that's just full on. Like, here's a trait to be a vampire. Oh, okay. So some of the traits can be almost like packages. Like the vampirism one, like just full on, like makes you a vampire. You get fangs. You get extra strength. But you also get the struggle along with it to balance out the fact that you're getting multiple things with it. Affects persuasion. So like some of the traits are like basically almost like racial packages.
Yeah. Oh, there's soul sucking.
That's a good baseline. Oh, there's soul sucking. If you spend
the
1
one with the
hour
effort.
socially engaged with a living creature, you choose to fully restore your effort pool. You do so, and the creature is another PC. Their effort pool empties. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay.
Energy vampire.
You're an energy vampire. So I like that. Yeah, using things like vampirism as a template, you can like make full-on packages. Like your like here's the elf package. Here's like the cyborg package, something like that. But like as a trait, and then you know if you're getting enough things to order, it's powerful enough. Then put a struggle in along with it. Like with cyborg, maybe you can't heal normally as easily or something. Like yeah, I like that. It's cool. Okay, and then we've got struggles, which is, of course, like the reverse things where it starts to give you detriments of some kind. Arrogant, bad driver, bad ears. So, like, they're basically flaws. I like the fact that he called them struggles and not flaws, though. That is something that I think a lot of that's a conversation in the community that's been happening recently, because, like, people don't want to say, oh, yeah, you're a paraplegic. It's a flaw. They're just trying to be nicer with the verbiage. Calling them struggles makes more sense. It's nicer with the verbiage. And I think falls in line with the conversation that's happening in the community right now. So that's cool. That's good naming there. And then there's the vampire struggle as well. Cool. Now we're getting into talents. So talents are the ones that can level, rank up individually. So when you level, you can like rank up your talents. I like that they're individually tracked like that. That's pretty cool. I've kind of did something similar in Dungeon Slug, except instead of ranking up the talents, you're actually ranking up the actual equipment itself. And then, of course, after your peon dies, which is going to happen, you lose all that. Because fuck you. Talents are abilities your character could have that can be learned and or improved. There does seem to be some dead ranks in these, though. Okay. These can be used to add a new talent power rank 1. So you get 2 points whenever you level, and then you can like do it as you wish. And once again, your ranks in a talent cannot be, I believe it says it here probably as well, because you can't go past your level in them. Okay, it doesn't restate it here, but it does state it earlier that you can't have a talent higher than your level. So if you're level 3, you can have a rank 4 talent. Many talents do not give a benefit at every. So you might want to like I know it's like restating the rule, but you might want to reprint that here as well. And then many talents do not give a benefit at every rank. You may need to go 1 level without getting a bonus, then get a huge increase in the next level. Mechanically, I see why you're doing it. At the same time, I'm not always a fan of like I've invested something but I get nothing in return in games. Like it's like dead levels in a class in D&D where it's like, what did you get this level? I don't know, like +1 to 1 thing and I'm done. I didn't get any abilities, any spells, anything like that. But I don't know how you would change it because of the way things are working with the ranks without like having to retool things, which everything's kind of balanced already. Because you can't just like standardize the ranks because they all do different things, and you can't just like shrink it so it's like rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because then you're going to get everything super early. And I don't know what the levels go up to. I'm not seeing anything past rank 10. So I'm levels for your character at least go up to 10, I'm assuming. It didn't actually say in character creation in the spot where it's like how to level up. It didn't actually say what your maximum level is. Affected ability, interpreting data. So there's no set. So it's kind of like Cypher or Fate or a lot of the other narrative games. There doesn't seem to be a set like skill list or anything per se. It's very like in this situation, this would affect your checks. which I find a lot of universal systems go one of two ways. They're either like Cypher, Fate, or in this case, this system, where it's like, all right, we don't have a set list, just like make things as you go, and then just sort of like haggle with the GM being like, hey, I think this would apply in this situation. Or they do something like Rifts, where there's about 5 trillion different fucking skills. I prefer this method. Yeah. All right. Talents seem pretty cool. So they're basically like scalable abilities. Once again, I'm not sure how I feel about there being dead levels, but I'm not sure how it would be fixed either. So.
And from what I've seen, as you were saying, I don't see anything at all that goes above 10.
Powers. Powers work like talents. The difference is the powers don't exist in the modern world. So basically, they're like super powered talents. Powers do seem to be a little bit more filled out. Maybe talents just need to be more filled out, because I'm seeing most powers don't have as many dead levels. There's some, I think, but for the most part, they seem to be pretty good. Unless stated otherwise, a power requires a combat action to use. All powers that target another creature or object require the caster to see the target. Casting components. When you learn a power for the first time, you must pick 2 of the 3 below requirements to use all powers. Once you pick the requirements, they cannot be changed with the GM's permission. Speaking, movement, or object. So it's going to be tied to something. So that's cool. So it's almost like there's an inborn, like, a check and balance for the power. It's not just all, like, mentally working. So you either need to say something for it, be able to, like, move around or gesticulate, or have something like, you know, consumable or an amulet or something like that. You know, super strength, maybe Popeye's spinach, that type of thing. Yeah. And once again, powers are meant to be fantastical. So there's usually something that you can do for that. I like it. I'm cool with it. Seeing the powers, they are very much filled out. I'm not seeing... There's one. There's with dead levels. The create weapon. So most of them are fairly well filled out. I'm wondering if you could do the same thing with talents, just to try and rid the dead levels.
The control wind's another one.
Has
a couple dead levels in it.
It means a little extra work, and maybe like not everything that you give is going to be super useful, but like basically anything to fill those dead levels, I think would make players happier. Even if it was just like a little role-playing thing, like a cosmetic effect or something. Anything to fill in those dead levels.
If you're doing like a 1 to 10 ranking system where like 10 is the highest rank you can go, which is from what I'm seeing here, then some of these can be fleshed out in other ways, I think, as well. Because like I see minor teleport, the highest rank is level 7, and you get infinite uses. Well, if you expand that somehow and have the infinite uses be your rank 10, there should be ways to fill in those gaps, right?
Yeah, well, he might be having that because maybe the infinite uses of the minor teleport is power scaling equal to other level 7s of other abilities. But so like I don't mind the maximum not always being 10. I'm okay with that. It would be cool if he could figure out something to standardize it so that it's not loose like it always is, a 1 to 10. But my major thing is those dead levels, because like player putting, like I put a rank into something and I get nothing in return feels kind of crap. Even if it's just like a simple like filler text with cosmetics being like, hey, your teleport now does a puff of smoke at like rank 6, because I see rank 6 is like a dead level, or like something like that. Yeah. I don't know, like it doesn't have to be that, but just something in there. So what you could do is you could make these talents, put in the mechanical bits that you want, and then once you figured out where the dead levels are, then just fill it out with fluff, basically. I would say just get rid of and you can do the same thing with talents.
That's what D&D does. You'll find in certain level upgrades for whatever subclass or whatever, they'll just fill it in with, oh, you get these 2 skills, or instead of being proficient in it, you have expertise in it or something like that, which isn't that big a deal, especially when you're hitting like level 7 or something like that, but it's so that you feel like you get something at that level.
Yeah, agreed. Equipment. Weapons. There are 3 types of weapons. Common, which is something that we picked up and used by anybody. Uncommon, weapons that can be learned in a few hours or a day, like firearms. And exotic, weapons that take several days or more to be able to use to the point of causing reliable damage, like whips or nunchucks. That's pretty fair. Actually, those are good examples. Because like a firearm, like anyone can use a firearm, but you're going to be shit at it the first couple of times. Like, yeah. First few times I fired a gun, I was very surprised at how it handles. So, makes sense. Uncommon weapons cannot be used to attack unless the wielder has the uncommon weapon training talent applied for that specific weapon. Same goes for exotic weapons and the exotic weapon training talent. Certain pieces of equipment may require less training than others depending on the setting. A long whip might be much more common and easier to use in a Western setting than an urban fantasy setting. In those situations, the GM can make an exception to the equipment's rarity. Okay. Yeah, I like that. It notes that, hey, it's a universal system. Things may be different. And by the way, like looking at the left page, can I just comment on the art again? Like the scarecrow dude. And like that's awesome. Kudos to your artist again.
What I'm calling the faceless angel over here.
Yeah. Like they're just little sketches, but like even I don't know if these sketches are going to remain like that or get fleshed out eventually or something. I'd be fine either way, to be perfectly honest. I think they're pretty cool. Special. This denotes items and weapons that aren't yet common in the world. They cannot be used in your setting, does not allow them. These are things associated with like magic, sci-fi, the supernatural, etc. Makes sense. Okay. Then we start getting into things like armor. Fine. Check affected. Avoid. All right. So avoid checks you make against non-powered attacks while wearing this armor may use a D6. Wow. So armor. What? So armor fine is shoddy armor that gets the job done, but it gives you a D6, which is like as good as you can get. Interesting. Oh, okay. I think he like copy and pasted the description over. I think it's not supposed to be shoddy armor. I think because the shoddy armor is the patchwork armor.
Yeah.
I think he just didn't change the description for it. I was like, what? Okay, I get it now. I get it. All right. Yeah, because the default's a D10. See, I'm starting to pick up the system now. The default's a D10. Patchwork armor makes it a D8. Fine armor makes it a D6. Cool. And then basically it's just for the most part. Oops, that's what you get for copy pasta. Yeah, that's fine. It's once again, this is why you bait this. You're not in the editing stage yet. Like, we're not going to like focus too much on little shit like that because you're not even close to the editing. That's what the editing stage is for. All right. So yeah, they all have a use of some kind. Like communication device doesn't affect the check, but it provides you the ability to do something, aka communicate. So crafting tools will affect craft. So they, one way or another, once again, I like the fact that like equipment has to provide a service of some kind. And then there's some weird stuff like effigy of an elder god has like a built-in attack to it and stuff. That's interesting. Okay. Healing device. I like it. All right. Okay. Here's some example monsters. Okay. And the horde monster type thing he was mentioning. Welcome. Oh, let's 1 second. Let's do this. Let's do this right.
Welcome, Game Master, to the Monsters chapter.
There we go. These are some of the tools you can use to create conflict in the story. Beings to pit the party against, denizens to be destroyed. Each monster has a name, size, health, defense, move, and attack. Some have multiple options to use for their attack, but can only attack more than once on their turn if it says so specifically. Having multiple options for attacking doesn't mean they get multiple attacks on a turn. Some options have special stats like Stealth 3 or Lie 3. This sets a check's difficulty for the GM like any other monster. So basically just like their difficulty levels. Here's an option for running several monsters at once without having to keep track of every single one. Horde monster type. Applied to medium or small creatures in a group of at least 10. Hordes gain the following. Bump up its size, large or colossal. Bump up its capacity to 10 because it's now filling an entire zone. But because it's large, you're now being able to hit it from further away. You don't have to be in the zone. Because I'm getting the system now. Trait overwhelming. Hordes can move into a zone when capacity wouldn't normally allow. An attack when a zone is over capacity. Movement checks for creatures in the same zone as a horde are difficulty 4. Okay.
Wow.
So -2 bonus to the attacks. So that they're attacking easier. They get an extra attack per turn. The horde's health is the base monster's health times the number of zones the horde fills. Okay. Okay, so if you, for every group of 10, you're basically going to be filling a zone. So if you have 20 guys, then you're filling 2 zones. So you would actually be timesing their health by 3. Okay. Because it's the number of zones plus 1. So I'm picking it up. You might want to clarify that a bit. Like my brain figured it out, but you might want to clarify that part a bit. But yeah, I think it's really good. Horde levels double the base monster's level times the number of zones the horde fills. So you just want to like, it doesn't clarify here. So it says at least 10. It doesn't really clarify that like for every 10, you might want to fill a new zone, because I'm assuming that's why it has zones here for these. Like for number of zones, I'm assuming for every 10, it will fill a new zone. So if that's not labeled somewhere, because I don't see it labeled anywhere, you're going to want to clarify that, because I'm assuming that's how it works. Some helpful reminders for running hordes. Large creatures, including hordes, are in melee with any creature in an adjacent zone. Yep, like we said earlier, and those creatures are within melee of the large creature. Yeah. I'm glad you restate this here as well to remind people. Any small or medium creature in a zone above capacity cannot attack. Instead, they must combo, help, move again, etc. Okay, so if a horde floods you to the point where it's over capacity, then you need to get the hell out of dodge before you're able to attack. Because you cannot attack if they're flooding the same area as you. Interesting. So if you get mobbed by zombies, you can't really attack back so much as like, because you're getting completely swarmed. Huh. I have to process that. I got to digest that a little bit. That's interesting. I haven't really seen something like that before. You do have some unique stuff in this system so far. Yeah. And then we look at some stats. Alien Horror level 18. Okay, so that's a level 18. So do player levels go that high? Never actually stated. We're almost done the document, and there's a few things that have not been addressed. Like what's the maximum level? Like the definition of attributes. Some stuff like that. Definitely got some work to do still. So size M, health 13. Well, that's a chunky amount of health, eh? Well, I guess you got like 4 people wailing on it. That's only like, it's like less than 4 successful attacks on it, assuming they're not like getting extra like combos pulled off. Okay, that seems fair. I could see that being taken out in a couple of rounds, assuming they don't flub a lot. You only attack 4, like it's got reaction, stealth, move 2. Cool. Cool. You won't find a max. Oh, there is no max level. Okay. Oh, there's no max level. I see. I was expecting one, but that's on me because it never said anything about a max level. So there's no max level. Infinite scalability. Okay. Now, in the creating a monster, let's go back to creating a monster for a second. What does the level do? Because you got like level 18 monster. But there, like, the level doesn't seem to have any mechanics behind it. Like, what is it just there as like a challenge rating thing like in D&D, which doesn't work in D&D? Like, what does the level do for a monster? Because I'm not seeing anything based off of its level. It's not like in Cypher where the level is for your base numerical values, which you then modify and everything else. I didn't see anything for that in the monsters. Like this, right now, this is just a number there. So melee attack 4. That's damn good melee attack, but it is a high level creature. The monster's levels were extremely difficult to work out. Needed my cousin who has a math doctor to help with that. Okay. So it is acting like a challenge rating right now. Is the average damage it does over its lifetime in one combat? Oh, ish. All right. Okay. That's going to be tricky when people make their own. Like if you needed your cousin with a math doctor to help you out in that, that's going to be tricky when people are making their own monsters to figure out what the level is, and like explaining what the level is, like defining it and stuff. And I'm not even sure like if it's needed per se. Can you just do like a difficulty? Like, because you already have a difficulty ranking system, right? Like that people are going against from 1 to 8. Is there not a way to do a rating system? Let's just say like that makes it a little bit more looser. Putting together a tool to help balance encounters. Okay. Not sold on the level thing, I'm gonna be honest, because like I know like it's basically the equivalent of like a challenge rating system in D&D and Pathfinder, which are both broken. They don't work because encounters tend to be too complex for these numbers to do anything other than give a very, very basic guideline. I might give up and rescale monster levels to be simpler. Yeah, I think just doing it on a difficulty scale, like you don't have to have precise numerical, especially in a system that's this loose. Like this system isn't like as tightly mathematically bound as some of the crunchier systems. I like the fact that the system's a little bit more streamlined, a little bit simpler. I don't think you need the specific levelings of these creatures so much as like on a difficulty. Just do like a standardized difficulty scale, and yeah, it may not always be perfect. Maybe 2, difficulties from 1 to 8, maybe 2 of them being on a 4 will be a little bit different from each other, but I think that would be fine. Because encounters are always more complex than a single number can boil it down to. That's why challenge rating systems almost never work. Because you've got a lot of GMs throw in environmental effects. If you mix and match different creatures, it can have complexity. The different like talents and powers and the thing that your characters have may be stronger against certain things and weaker against others. In these cases, once you've added all that together, this level means nothing. Because you look at challenge ratings in D&D, there are some creatures in D&D where I have practically massacred a party with like a challenge rating 4 monster, and then had that same party only a level or two later raffle stomp a CR15 monster. Because it's way more complex than a single number can boil it down to. So yeah. The rest of it is nice and straightforward. I like that the stat blocks, you don't need a lot in the stat blocks. And I'm not sure if you were here when we mentioned it, because the agency is all on the player, you can easily say that this can be solo or co-op play without the need of a GM. So if you have multiple, if you do kind of what they do in the Alien RPG, where if there's multiple abilities that you can choose between, if you're a GM, choose the ability. I do the same thing in Dungeon Slug as well, by the way. You can either choose the attack or ability that they're using, or you can roll randomly and assign a number to them. So if they're playing in solo or co-op play, with that one minor change, this entire system is already compatible for solo and co-op play. So that's another benefit to your system you could easily market it for. Because that's a thing right now, especially ever since the pandemic, and you know, people are more afraid of each other than ever. You can easily set this as solo and co-op.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
Gesture. Giant spider. Max, I like that you give a wide variety of different types of creatures for different genres. My gosh, I love the picture of the like puppet man eating like the eyeball or whatever is going on here. That's amazing. And then there's the pre-gens at the end, which is very, very simplified. Okay.
I think I was mistaken on wounds because I thought they had like unique wounds for the creatures, but it just looks like it's unique traits.
Yeah. Green wound. I would definitely make a list of some predefined wounds. Like I know they're in like the monster stat block, but I'm assuming that wounds can happen through things like environmental effects, traps, stuff like this. So I would definitely have a list of predefined wounds in that case. You know, like battered and bruised, broken, what have you, bleeding, you know, whatever your wounds are representing. Twisted ankle, Dane Bramage. That would probably help out there. Yeah, it needs a lot more work, but I mean, this shit takes forever. Like I join Terran's streams all the time with Vagabond, and like some days it feels like he's like got a system that's almost done, and then like he'll like explain like, no, this section is missing, this section is missing, and it's like this needs months and months more work yet. And same thing with my Dungeon Slug system. I'm like, I thought I was getting close, and then after the beta test I realized nope I need more, so much more, and that's a super light system. I need a lot more retooling, reworking, adding a few things, stuff like that. So but I think this is a solid baseline for a system. There's a few messy bits to it. I'm not gonna lie. There's some bits that need to be refined, reworked. But I think it's a pretty solid system. It's fairly rules light. I love the fact that the PCs are hyper customizable. Once again, it's like this is my bag. Considering my favorite systems are things like Cypher and Fate, this is entirely in the same realm of those systems. Little bit of refinement and finishing some things off, then making it look pretty. I could see this standing up there with them fairly well. We did that in under 3 hours.
Really?
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
And technically, considering the first like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes was just like me before you joined, and then we restarted. Yeah, we did in like basically like 2 hours, 45 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm still hung up on a lot of the artwork in here. I think it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
I think as a whole, like I said, like with some minor tweaks, this like even like now with a better understanding of it, we could play something similar to this. Or like play it with as loosely as possible. I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be tightened up about it to make it like a fully playtest playable setup. But like, I think this is interesting. I think it's going to be easy enough to pick up. I think once there's a clear definition of character creation, especially, and how that looks, I think with that visual, I think it would be much easier. For the playtest, but I would play this. I want to play this.
So fave, least fave. So you're asking like what are our favorite and least favorite parts of the test so far. I would say for me, favorite would probably be, well, it's got to be defined first, I think a little bit better, but favorite would be for me, the character creation seems very customizable while at the same time being extraordinarily streamlined and simple. I think being able to create whatever character you want very easily and then level it up fairly easily as well, I think is going to be a very good strength of the system. This is the type of system you'll be able to be like, oh shit, our GM is gone for our Pathfinder game for the week. Hey, you want to do like a quick Sagas game and like put shit together in a snap. I think that can work out fairly well. Least favorite, there's a couple of things I have issues with. I'm torn between the fact that like there's a lot of things undefined on how character creation works. So like kind of the flip on that part. And also a mix of the zone combat. I feel like there's something that needs to be, I don't know, more clearly defined or reworked there a little bit. It does feel a little bit messy. I'm picking it up now. I don't dislike it or anything, but just the fact that like, depending on the size, you have a lot of these like if structure things in here, depending on the size, or if it's taking up so many spots, or then you can attack it from further away because now melee actually counts as not melee for this distance. Like it does seem a little bit messy in the way it's done. I like that it's there, and I like that you have slots within these zones. I think that's truly awesome, but I feel like it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. What about you, BHG?
I thought they meant like fave, least fave as an artwork, and my favorite is the Jack Skellington like lich on the traits page, or like if you're doing the side by side, there's the equipment page, and then the one before it, the one that I said like there's like the faceless angel.
Yeah.
The one like directly above it, this cool ass lich looking motherfucker. I like that. And I don't have a least favorite because all of this art is really good. If I'm looking at like favorite and least favorite mechanics from the document, I really like the built out predefined like traits and powers and stuff like that, because like you know me, like I can like bang out a Cypher character in 5 minutes or less, knowing the options that I have, or being able to see the options in front of me and seeing all of these options here. I can already kind of construct different character concepts just based on what I have here.
Yeah.
I am a person who likes lots of options, and they have definitely thought out lots of options. I think my least favorite's probably going to be the same. I think there's a much easier way to define a lot of the rules that you're putting out here. I think there's a lot of wording for the sake of wording to try and clearly define everything, where it can just as easily be described with like a small like chart or table explaining things. At points reading through the document right now, it's hard to follow. It takes a couple of like readovers to kind of get the point that you're putting across, which, as Ket has said several times, goes back to editing. Like, you're going to find all of this and go through this in your editing process. But as a whole, I think, like I said, I think a lot of this meshes really well for a simple tabletop. And with those little tweaks, I think it's going to be a really easy to pick up game.
Yeah. Yeah, the ease and quickness of it, I think, is going to be definitely one of its strengths.
Oh, only other least favorite thing is effort. We need to talk about effort, okay, as DM.
Yeah.
3 is not enough for the amount of things that it applies to, especially when when your life death mechanics hinges on you holding on to those. I have no reason to use them on anything else.
Yeah, I don't see people using 3 effort in combo attacks when they know that that is going to be the difference between them living or dying, possibly, like being able to do stuff in combat. Plus, the effort is sometimes used for certain talents, I think it said, or powers. And effort's used for too many things to have such a tight pool, I think.
Especially when it doesn't expand as you grow.
Yeah,
if it stays at 3 the whole time, you're going to have a lot of issues with that.
I'm okay with it starting at 3. I think like having that tight pool when you first start out, that's cool. You're a beginning character, but there needs to be a way to increase this. And I didn't see a way. I didn't see like a talent or power or anything like that was increasing your effort.
Especially if there's no limit on level. No, if there's no limit on level and your pool doesn't increase, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Since the talents do tend to cap out, like I didn't see one in here, at least unless I missed it, but since the talents cap out, like you don't have to worry about infinitely scaling effort. It'll still cap eventually. But yeah, I would introduce at least a talent, if not another way, for effort to scale. I probably wouldn't have it scale by level if there's infinite leveling, because I do think at that point the effort could get crazy and it would break the system. But a talent with limited increases, because you don't even need to increase it a lot. Like I can see it increasing like 1, 2, and then maybe 3. Once you get it to like an effort of 6 at like level 10 or something like that, I think that would do you. I think that would be fine because you've got wiggle room.
I kind of have the opposite recommendation. If you're setting a limit on the rankings and stuff for your abilities and having it defined that way, then set a limit on your level. If the limit is 10 based on the rankings, then set the limit at 10. If the limit is 20 and you're just going to you're going to include more to it, then set it higher, but set it at something. And if you I think the traits, maybe if you're not defining it around level, but defining it around the ranking that you can achieve, because again, with the traits and everything, they're all set by rank. The highest ability is rank 7 or rank 10 or something like that. Set your like the effort points to work in conjunction with that. So if if at level 5 I can only have access to like rank 5, then have level 1 is a rank you get 3 effort points. At level 2 or whatever, then have it maybe increase by 1 or increase higher, and have it work in conjunction with your abilities that way. But right now, I don't see it being a usable mechanic if it can do so much, but it's so hard to replenish. Like relying on on failing the roll to get the effort back and then rest is not enough if you only have that 3 for the entirety of your playthrough.
It's not often we disagree on things, but I actually kind of disagree. I do think the infinite scaling of the levels is still fine with the finite scaling of the talents, because you're only getting so good at one thing before having to move on and starting to grab other things to get good at. Meaning your character gets a new balance and stuff like that. So I don't know, different viewpoints on this one.
The other problem I have with the infinite level scale or whatever like that is, how long are you expecting a campaign in this game to go on for?
Actually, I do want to look, before I say I'm fine with the infinite level scaling, I got to go back to where was leveling up. What do we get with leveling up again? So when you level up, increase your current and maximum health by 1, spend 2 ranks in talents and powers. So the only issue I have if there is infinite level scaling is the fact that your health has no limit. So your health has no limit. Like if you play for a couple of years and your DM's been willing to level you up like 120 times, you're going to have a massive amount of health. Which for the rest of the system doesn't, like, especially if they decide to fight an NPC versus a monster, like you're starting to see some ridiculous numbers. So if you do want to have no cap, then you might want to change things to health being scalable off of another talent or something, or have a limit.
I mean, that's the reason behind the level limit in D&D. It's how far are you going after that? At level 20, what are you doing after that? Like, you're bringing back level 20 characters like the Avengers for like a universe, threatening event. Other than that, they're retiring and fucking, running a tavern or something like that, or going off into the mountains because there's nothing else for them to do. In the same regard, how long is this campaign expected to go on for with infinite levels? Like, are we playing for the next decade? To see how high we can get, or like there needs to be a capstone at some point to define like this is where the effective end is, especially if you're deciding those levels as a milestone. Now, if it's one thing where you include it like where the DM sets it, where it's like the DM sets it so at rank 25, that's it. That's probably where we're capping it off, which makes sense. But then there needs to be some kind of mechanic in the rules that accompanies that.
All right, you're starting to convince me a little bit. Yeah, you've had a compelling argument there. You are starting to convince me a little bit. That does kind of, yeah. The infinite leveling so I was just looking at it in a mechanics standpoint, which I don't think it's that bad, but I didn't even think about the whole actual human element and the play element. You're not going to be playing this game forever. You're eventually going to want to go on to something fresh. So yeah, you're kind of convincing me that.
Well, especially like the idea that it's a universal system. You can play it in any format and stuff like that. I don't want to stick in the same fantasy setting for 10 years if we can use these mechanics for other worlds and stuff like that. So where do we define the end at that point? I think I agree with the idea, because I always thought the idea of finishing at level 20 and then you don't get to progress any further or gain anything like that if you decide to continue the story sucks. I don't think boons is enough. I think I've always been wrestling with this concept of if you wanted to play past level 20, the character can decide that if they want to kind of retire or start their adventure over, they can retain certain skills from their subclass and then start off at level 1 again and work through the cycle again. I
don't know. I don't really see the need. So I see the need to cap the health. So it's almost like how there's a lot of custom rules for people playing beyond 20 or something like that in D&D or beyond 6 in Cypher, where they just get other things to scale. What I would say in this one is have maximum for your health to whatever degree, whatever is going to make sense balance-wise. You'll know the numbers better than I would. And then after that, you're only getting the 2 rank points. Because like the game will end when the game ends. You don't necessarily have to have a hard cap to it. When the group feels they want to move on, they can move on. I don't feel like you have to have that hard cap. But if you don't hard cap something like a base resource like health, because like the talents and powers do have hard caps, so it's fine to have infinite resources on that, but the health doesn't. So I would suggest putting a hard cap of some kind on that health. And that's the equivalent of like your maximum level, basically.
To explain it, like we're playing Diablo 4 right now, right?
Yeah.
Imagine instead of having to like you get to level 70 or whatever the cap is for your character, and you've built out all these powers and stuff like that. I like the idea with this system of being able to say to mix and match. So you know what? I started off as a sorcerer, but maybe I want to take a couple of these powers or traits that give me a couple of the necromancer abilities. I like that as a concept. I think that's a great idea. If Diablo 4 had something like that, instead of having to create a brand new character to experience some of those abilities, that would be a really cool feature. But at the same time, there is still that ending point where, like you said, we're like, there's a stop for the health and there's a stop for the amount of mana that you can accrue, so that you can't just infinitely span all of these abilities forever. I think there needs to be a fine balance. I think having the level caps helps to define that balance. So if you can find that balance without defining level caps, great. But if you can't, I think there should be some kind of stop in place to define like, hey, like this is your peak. This is about as high as you can go.
I don't know. I would still leave that up to the group. I'd be like, the group can be like, we're only going to play till X level or something like that. Or like, instead of having a hard cap in the system, maybe just put in a suggestion being like, hey, if you want to play to this, like this level of play or something, maybe stop at this level or something like that.
Which I'm agreeing, but if that's the case, then the ruling, like some of the rules and some of like even the abilities and traits that you're able to take need to reflect that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The other difficulty, of course, as much as like part of me still wants to say, hey, getting all these ranks and stuff over time is pretty cool and stuff like that. As they start to develop and you start getting all these extra toys, like say you're using powers and your character's like got a bunch of different powers, even if they don't stack with each other because it only stacks to a certain degree, but they get more toys. Your monsters have to start getting more and more complex and have more to them over time, which can start to get difficult to create and handle for the GM.
Yes.
So in that case, I'm torn. There's parts of it where I like the fact that it's infinitely scaling, but there's also parts where I go, if it's infinitely scaling, that means like monster management starts to become a nightmare at some point. It is once you hit 10, you have to expand outwards instead of upwards. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking as well. I would still at the very least, the takeaway from this, the very minimum, I would say at least cap the health. At some point, I'm not sure mechanically what would be best for that, but at the very least, cap the health. That way, the monsters don't have to start scaling to these insane numbers in order to actually take out the PCs. So, the gods or monster supplement or something. Yeah. So at the very least, cap the health, or like put the health behind like the equivalent of a paywall with another talent or something, so they can, like, if they want to invest into it, they can eke it a little bit more, but otherwise cap it. Either that or just get rid of the health scaling with level and put health behind that paywall and make health a talent, so that if you want to be a tough sumbitch, you got to invest in being a tough sumbitch. And that way you'd have a built-in cap. You wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. And that can be one of the things that can take. And you can always make a secondary talent if you want them to develop that further, like maybe a greater health or something, but they need to fill out the first one first. Whatever you want. But this way, if you put it behind that, as I keep saying, paywall, then they have to invest into it. So and if you have that hard cap, then you're going to have your weaker people that invested in toys, the stronger people that invested in being sturdy, but you still have the hard cap, so that your monsters are not getting so out of control, like they have to do like 50 damage to hurt a PC. Might even cap the health at like 7, because there are very few monsters that do more than 1 damage to a character in 1 attack. Yeah, see, if they're generally only doing 1 damage to a character in 1 attack, and your GM has allowed you to level up 50 times, you either have to have one hell of a slog to actually threaten a PC, or you're going to have to do something else. I already know I'm going to rewatch the stream like 8 times. Yeah, no worries. Like, I hope, like, we're trying to be as positive as possible, and we've loved, like, we have loved a lot of the things in here. There's been a few things I'm like, I kind of want to steal this, but there's been some good ideas in here that we think have been really good. But we've gone through so many design streams with other creators, as well as looking at our own shit and everything, that we can pick things apart at least half decently with our smooth brains.
And I think in all of anytime we review stuff like this, it's an objective, honest opinion. Like, there's no, there's no bias or anything like that. It could be Taryn's work or anybody else's. I'm gonna tell you what I think of it, and I think that's important, because, like you're saying, like it's helpful because we're not pussyfooting around the things that we have problems with, and I know there are some reviewers that will do that. Like
with Taryn, like we are fairly close friends with Taryn. And I love Vagabond and the concept of Vagabond, and I can't wait for it. But when we sat down to do a review of at least that version of the playtest for Vagabond, we ripped it a new one. Like, there was parts of it that were like, no, this sucks. Like, we won't hold back.
And yeah, I think I don't have any problems with most of the mechanics. I think the biggest thing for me is the effort. I think you do something to spiff up that effort mechanic, and you show a clear, defined way of creating your character, and then you throw that out there, and you're going to get a lot of positive results with your playtest.
Yeah, I think our main things were scaling issues. Zones still feel a little messy. Effort, there needs to be something to scale up effort, for sure. Defining things, because there's a lot of things, especially in the character creation. There's a lot of missing bits to it. And so, like, a glossary of terms, I think at the very beginning of the book, right after the cheat sheet, very important, because it took us reading through this and talking with you to understand some of the stuff. Mm-hmm. And as he mentioned earlier, he realizes that he's learning how difficult it is to recognize that something's confusing when I already fully understand what I'm trying to say. I've been there entirely with Dungeon Slug. There's been like, oh yeah, this is this. I mean, we've been beta testing Dungeon Slug for a couple of years at this point, so there's some concepts that we already are familiar with. I forgot to put terms in the book, and I'm like, and then some of the beta testers are like, I don't know what this means. I'm like, well, no, I guess you wouldn't.
My recommendation always for the content, read it over a couple times and then see if you can explain it to a toddler.
Yeah.
And if you read over the sentence so many times that it's like it makes sense to me, but a kid wouldn't understand it, then you need to rework it.
I say that, and I think of what Taryn does, and he uses Amanda. And Amanda's his toddler.
I'm not trying. But like, does Amanda play a lot of tabletops, or is it just that
she's played them, but she's not like super, like, she's not like into the rules or nitty gritty or anything. So like, that's why she's labeled as his new user experience thing, because he doesn't tell her exactly what he's doing, and then he just throws it at her and goes, all right, do you understand?
Yeah. I say this, I'm not being mean to players or new players, but there are some players who need the explanation like that. They need the explanation like you're teaching it to a toddler. So if your system can be easily conveyed to a child and have them understand it, then the wording is right. All of these things can make sense, and they probably, like, everything that we've nitpicked probably make perfect sense to you, because they're coming from your brain. They're your mind interpreted into words on a page. But we're not you. And in the same way, like, for you'll find you'll rework it a couple times and you'll look at that wording. Even if you got kids, hand it to, maybe not hand it to your kids if they can't read, but if they can and they can comprehend it, that's when they're 10, 11, 12 years old, something like that, hand them the page and say, read that and tell me if you understand it. Tell me how you interpret what that's saying. And if they're having trouble with it, then rework it.
It's like what I do with puzzles for D&D puzzles for like adventuring groups, the 5-minute rule. Basically, if a child can figure it in 5 minutes, a group of adults might be able to figure it out in a reasonable time. It's kind of how I base my puzzles.
I understand that puzzle approach, but also I'm realizing that doesn't work for everyone either. No. Zelda, the new Zelda is the perfect example. People have been posting a video of one particular puzzle where, for me, it was easy. No problem. Literally, it gives you everything in front of you, and like my brain put it together before I even did it. There are people that spent hours in the same dungeon when I can't figure this out. How do I get over this? How do I do this? It's like, wait, but it's right there. It's all laid out for you, but it's right at the beginning of the game, and people are still getting used to building. And some people don't have that creative brain, or we're like, oh, this piece fits here, and if I pop all this together, we'll just do that. Like, people don't have that.
Yeah, there's some things that like we will understand. Like, what was it in Monster Creation? What did they say? I understood how it scaled, but it didn't actually explain it. For the hordes thing, I realized that like the capacity was scaling for every 10, even though it didn't say that anywhere here. And I realized that because of the way that it says per zone, and it's like 10 fills the zone, stuff like that. But it didn't actually state that. However, there's a lot of people, most people I think would not pick up on that because people think differently. And I don't want to name names, but we have a couple of players that, despite playing with us for years in various games, still need to be babied. Still, they need things spelled out as plainly as possible.
And I will say that as well. In this case, for this document, there are places where you don't need to over-explain it. There are places where it can be simplified, and there are other places where there are other places where you need more explanation. Which we've not only pointed out here, but again, like get more people, like get more common eyes on this, get more people who either don't do this every day, or people who maybe only have a slight experience in tabletops, or maybe even people who don't have experience in tabletops.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And gather that information from those points of view so that you can kind of find that middle point of what is going to work, what needs more explanation, and what needs a little bit less.
Yeah, that's a good baseline. Do you have like a cousin or a friend or your mom or something that's like never played a tabletop game in their life? If they can sit down and read the book and at least glean, like they may miss some things because they've never played a tabletop game, but if they can glean the majority of it, how it works, then you're in the right track.
More visuals definitely helps. Like we were saying before, more like charts and stuff like that over full explanations. I think D&D did a really great job of like when they were all explaining DCs, they would just show you the calculation as opposed to explaining it word for word how that calculation works.
You know, as messy as it was in so many other ways, I actually think 3rd edition did a little bit better of a job because there was a lot more like pictures and diagrams in that edition. Like for heights, like of the different races, for example, there was an actual picture to show you in reference on like each one, or like the weapons. There was actual picture, like diagrams to show them in relation to each other and stuff. I kind of missed that. Like 5e stopped.
Got access to a fairly good artist who could put something like that together, like scalings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you were doing this art or if it's the same person that did your cover art, but I like your artist. I like your artist.
Yeah, more of that. The more of this, I like this.
The Sagas Discord server is nearly 100 members, and their feedback has already been super helpful. That is very good to hear, yeah. Because I know this version of the beta test just dropped, like, today. I haven't watched them yet, but you also dropped those... you also dropped the other things, the videos, right? One second.
Where is it? Can you give us that link? Like the Discord link? Because that'd be something like if you're looking
I'm in his Discord. I can give it to you too.
Yeah? Put it in the description.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure it's in the description of this once I'm done the streaming bit. Because we definitely want more eyes on it, for sure.
Watching
excuse me. Let me... You know, I was thinking of like watching the videos, and I'm not going to watch the videos on stream. I'm just going to say, go watch the videos. I'm going to watch them independently and then see what I think as well. But yeah. All right. So this has been our 3 hours of rambling, and hopefully you gleaned some stuff out of it. But yeah, this has hopefully been helpful. We have picked it apart as much as we can pick it apart, showed you what we liked, what we think just needs a little bit of tweaking, and then a few things we think needs a bit of reworking. But I think the bones are good. The bones are pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds very flexible, and I already have character ideas for a Saga playthrough. So
yeah. I mean, like, I still love my Fate, I still love my Cypher, but like, I'm not the type of person that sticks with one system. Sometimes I have an idea that I think would work in other systems in slightly different ways. I want more tools in the toolbox.
Once it's more playable, if you can get somebody making a Foundry module for it.
Yeah. Also, another question. So right now you've got it standard, prohibited, like no reproduction of the material or usage or anything. Are you going to be doing an open license for other people to produce under it as well? I know he's at work, so if you don't answer, it's fine. But yeah, I was wondering if you're going to be doing an open license for people to do third-party products in Sagas once it's actually refined and released, because like not only things like, you know, like you look at the Cypher system and Fate system where they have things where people can make their third-party products, helps increase the life of the game. But you even look at video games like Minecraft never would have been the powerhouse it was if it hadn't opened up to the modding community. Like I look at that in that like sort of facet.
Oh, plenty of games. I mean, even games that didn't really intend on having mods, like Skyrim.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 by extension, same thing. Like,
yeah, like Skyrim, I've gone back and replayed a bunch of times because, you know, like the first few times, all right, I just want to experience Skyrim. But then after that, it's because I wanted Skyrim to be super pretty and the dragons were trains and I was playing a big tittied anime girl. So, like, yeah. I love the idea of people creating their own stuff, and I'm okay with even making money off of it. Sagas will be pay. Oh, so it will be pay what you want, and you're planning an doing an open license thing with it. Cool. I like it. I can see this being a thing. We make things. It's so, you know, it's got so many bones close to Cypher that I think very easily stuff that we create for Cypher will also be very easily translatable to Sagas. So I have a feeling anything we make for Cypher probably going to get a Sagas version as well. So yeah, enough of the bones are similar. Well, I think that's enough for now. I think we've rambled enough. Hopefully you got some stuff out of it. Yeah. Thanks for joining us in the chat. I know you were at work or whatever, but thanks for commenting anyways. Hopefully you haven't been too distracted from your work. You say you're going to rewatch it a bunch of times, but it's like a 3.5 hour long video. So good luck on that, bud, because I'm not editing it down.
It's like an hour and a half at like 2 times speed.
Oh yeah, watch it on 2 times speed. I know, like sometimes we talk a little fast, but 2 times still shouldn't be too bad. There you go. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. I haven't eaten yet today, and I'd probably like to do that. Maybe take some painkillers. So yeah, I think that's all good. What is today? It's Friday, right? You're not streaming your game today. Nope. You're streaming Cleaning Crew tomorrow?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know. Like it gets canceled all the time. I was just making sure it's still on.
I just got King Nerd's character rolled up for tomorrow as well. So he's rolling ready to go. I'm out a player tomorrow, but it's going to be like possibly a little bit of a shopping episode with some like side shenanigans. We'll see what they do.
All right. So if anyone's watching this, check out Bad Hair Gaming on Twitch.
No, Arena. It's
Arena
exclusive.
Oh, it's Arena exclusive. Yeah. Okay, so it's arena.tv, right?
I think so. It is arena.tv/Bad Hair Gaming.
Yeah, so check out Bad Hair Gaming on arena.tv for that. I forgot that was an exclusive one for tomorrow's game. And then Sunday, we're not playing on Sunday because I have that podcast I have to be on. So we don't have our Sunday game. So yeah, I guess the only game you got to look forward to right now is tomorrow. And then, of course, like, subscribe. If you like what I do, feel free, toss a couple of bucks for this Canuck for some brewskis in my Ko-fi link below. Much appreciated. If I can get a few more bucks, maybe I can do some more cool shit. All things considered. So thank you. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and